Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of It's Your Birthday, the only podcast that gets you a gift every single week, and this week is no different. And that gift, as always, is video games. I'm your host, Kelly Workman. I'm joined by Christian Langton. Christian, how you doing this week, buddy?
Good, man. I'm good. I honestly wish that fucking OBS would save my inputs and everything whenever we close this down for a week, so whenever I come back, I don't have to spend an hour doing all this funky stuff. That's
Do you run into that issue?
What happens is, like, it's not so much like, okay, so I have to first start all the programs because it's horrible at remembering what I have open. So, like, the way this configuration works is I have Discord, like, gonna pop out, and then I crop that with a bunch of stuff, and then I also have, like, the text under our names. You can see all this. Yeah. But what you don't see is the browser window that I have to crop out. So I have to make sure that we're in a call before I start OBS. Then I have to make sure it actually detects it. If it doesn't, I have to go into each input for these windows that I have and select the right window. Then I have to do the same thing with the browser, dude. I'm telling you.
Well, you know, Honey is a browser extension that can save you money if you're looking at browser extensions right now.
That's cool.
This episode is clearly not sponsored by Honey or anyone other than my own bank account, as always.
As always.
I haven't actually found remarkably easy, because I was going to record. I was recording some VR stuff today and yesterday, trying to settle that up because I hadn't tried yet.
Yeah.
Or at least on the Oculus I hadn't tried, because I was like, this seems like a shit show to try and get working. Again, to Steam's credit, with everything that's happened with the index, very simple. Like, OBS is just, you pull it up and you go, this window, this audio, and it's like, got it, and that's it. And I've just set it as one of those transition things, basically. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's like, it's very simple. And honestly, no performance impact whatsoever. Even playing Half-Life Alyx, it didn't have any diminishing returns, which I was really surprised by. It was solid. So
it's interesting you say that, because I always hear the opposite about streaming or, like, recording VRs, that it's just kind of a nightmare without, like, optimal rig and settings. And
the rig is good, so that could definitely be the factor there. But yeah, I mean, because effectively all it's doing is just recording that Steam mirror window that comes up. Mm-hmm. So it's fine.
When you record VR footage, do you talk over the footage after the fact, or do you...
I probably will. Because mostly this time, honestly, the mic on the index is super good. Like, I was pleasantly surprised. Like, it's almost... I wouldn't say it's at the quality that this mic is, but there's, like, a little less bass in the voice and some other stuff. But, like, it's really clean. Like, it's really clean audio that comes out of that. So... I think for the most part I'll probably do VO over it, just because of how intensive some of the games are to, like, try and move around and duck and dodge and then actually describe that happening.
Yeah.
Because I was playing a lot of, like, Until You Fall today, and that game is really it's the first game I played that's made me sweat. Like, so it's like, playing that and trying to describe it as quickly as it's happening, I think, would be really difficult.
I mean, we have a friend. We have a friend, when he plays Beat Saber, you just hear.
Yeah. And that was the other thing. I didn't want the video to just be a bunch of me breathing either when I do this. So I was, like, trying to work around that.
Yeah.
Some stuff though, like Half-Life probably wouldn't be that bad. Which I think most of these, what I'll do if it's not necessarily a review, I think I'll probably end up just recording the whole thing and then just cutting the bits that are, fun, and leaving it just dead air the whole time. No, and just kind of splicing the fun bits together. Because the Half-Life one, I did some stuff, but then I realized after the fact I wasn't recording actual desktop audio. And then I went in and set up, like, the normal game recording one in a section, and then the one for getting the Elgato capture card stuff for the Switch and all that done. And then I went to the specific just index one to make it easier for switching between them, because I'd had everything and it was just, clicking off transparency stuff. And I was like, now there's like 9 things here. I need to, like, cut this down and then just went through and did all of it, and that was really not that bad. So that's why I'm interested. It's interesting that yours has to do all this other stuff, because mine has so far been pretty seamless with that. But
yeah, I mean, not necessarily mine, but I've just heard that, because I haven't even tried, like, especially with the Oculus Quest, with I just 14 different layers that you're in. Seems like a nightmare. Actually,
to that end, there is for the Quest 2, I was watching some stuff today. Apparently, they're hinting at opening 120 hertz up on that thing, which is pretty cool. I think it would nuke the battery in that deal, though, because it's already struggling at a 2-hour mark before the 90 hertz stuff or around the 90 hertz stuff. So 120 seems like it would kind of tear it down even more. But
I mean, I think there's definitely like a honeymoon period with like any new gaming technology, and I think I might have had it with the Quest. Like, I still pick it up every once in a while, but it doesn't have that spark that it did that first week I had it. And also the flaws became very apparent, like, as I started really playing with it. But man, like, there's nothing like that first blast of just entertainment coming out of that thing, no matter what the headset is. But yeah, I'm interested to hear you talk about the index later, because I think that might be the next direction to go. Straight from... It
is crisp. Well, we'll get into it a bit later, but I guess we can. You want to start with news?
What's been going on? They ask. Everybody says, Christian, tell me about video games. What's going on with the video games? And I say, sir, I don't know you, and you don't know me. Don't talk to me anymore. And I still, I'm like, good point. And I get on my phone and I start looking up news stories to share on the podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the new thing that happened today. This is like a teaser for Grand Theft Auto Online. If y'all care about this, it's still like arguably the biggest multiplayer game in the world aside from Fortnite. So
that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah,
like it's still. I still can't believe it. I mean, I get it. Like, it's super fun from what I played of it, but I don't know. Like, that's really crazy. I guess I haven't really experienced much of the multiplayer stuff outside of when the stunt track stuff came in. I started fucking with that because that was pretty fun to do all those weird races on all those crazy Hot Wheels tracks people had made. So that was super fun, but.
Honestly, like, all those custom game modes in GTA Online is what keeps me coming back for the most part.
Sure.
But
yeah, because I still don't even think I've ever done a heist in that game, like online or with people or whatever.
Honestly, like, I still have a group of friends that like to play it every once in a while. This is exciting news because I think the online's gotten pretty stale. I don't find grinding for cash all that interesting. I just like doing the missions with my friends, but they get like way more into it than I do. But I'll just play this video real quick. It's like 10 seconds. This is like teasing a new area for the game. And what it looks like is it might be just some island off the coast of Los Santos.
Sure.
So that's pretty cool, I guess.
It's about time, really, that they start expanding out of the island, you know what I mean, or out of Los Santos a bit.
Yeah.
Especially by how long we've had this game be out, it's like, I can't believe they haven't added, more environments by now. But again, I don't really follow the game, so maybe they have in some other capacity. I just don't know.
I mean, they've done like all the warehouses and like the different businesses you can open and like apartments. The casino stuff was really cool. They've been doing interesting things all along, but I think that it's interesting that they're getting away from doing the single player expansion content that they were known for in like GTA 4 and in the original Red Dead. Instead focusing on like what can be in some cases a very half-baked online experience. And that was the big complaint
Yeah.
about GTA Online, at least for the first couple years, was just like, what the fuck are we doing on this thing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think honestly, yeah, the Red Dead, they didn't seem to really learn much because it still feels kind of that way. Like there's more to it, but it's still not. Outside of the hackers and other stuff we've talked about before, yeah, it still doesn't really feel like. Because I think I went through. I mean, once one of the seasons pass came up, I spent like a full weekend or a week playing through all that stuff, and then once that was done, I was like, well, what do I do now? Like I don't, because especially the competitive match stuff, it's just bananas. Like you can't even do anything in those. Like it's just like there's one where you have to like race and jump onto a train or something to get like some crate or money or some shit like that, and you are just constantly getting shot in the back of the head from when like you spawn in, there's people behind you on horses running in, and everybody just gets shot in the head, and it's a continual wave of people just getting shot in the head trying to catch this train. And the only people that really ever I seem to do well are like if they started out on the train already or like the horse close to it and they just jump immediately and then they're good, but everybody else is just like struggling for like 10 minutes to even do anything. And it's just a really weird game mode. But I wish they would do more of that game because I like it. And and if they don't, I would like to be able to uninstall it in good faith, but I'm still waiting.
Yeah, I'd say jump in it if you haven't tried it recently. I don't know when this content's coming. They're releasing like updates for the new consoles. I think that stuff's coming early next year for the PS5 and Xbox Series X. And
So that's not ready at launch, like the update for those?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that those have come out just yet.
That's really strange.
We could do a quick little Googler on there and see real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, no firm release date other than 2021.
That's crazy, man.
What
else are y'all doing on there?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is like a tease for things to come, and maybe it's coming a lot sooner than people thought.
I did see. Speaking of the new console stuff, I saw a bunch of the new consoles and old games, I guess. I saw a bunch of people on Reddit just being like, "Oh man, Fallout 4 finally plays at 30 frames locked on the PS5," and everyone's like super stoked about it. And I'm like, man, you guys are fucking amped about 30 frames on it. I mean, granted, that game ran like shit on base level consoles then. Mm-hmm. And then it was this like whole debate of like I don't know why. I mean, obviously the hardware can do it, and it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, even on PC, Fallout 4, because they still haven't updated this to do that, and they never will. But you can't play that game over really 60 frames without a mod, because it's one of those games where the frame rate is tied to the engine. So like, especially if you aim down sights and then when you unaim, everyone just starts speeding up and running really fast, and then there will be like dialogue that will go over top of it. Like there's a plethora of issues if you try to play that game above its recommended refresh rate. So yeah, and then they're just like, I mean, it's super easy. Bethesda could easily do it. And I'm like, they could, but they still haven't even updated Fallout 3 to work on Windows 10, and they're still selling that game. So I wouldn't hold your breath that they're going to be updating this anytime soon.
Dude, that's like, the Bethesda way is just to leave it to their fans to fix the shit. It's like,
exactly. Well, in this one, you can't. Like, unless they unlock the option, that game is locked on console at this frame rate, so they have to update it to do it. You can't do it for them. And and it was that thing of like, I'm trying to think of what the guy said, but it was just like, he's like, I think it'd be an easy fix. I think they could simply do it. I think they'll do it here soon. I was like, dude, Bethesda doesn't get out of bed unless there's a Skyrim re-release. That's all they're fucking doing. And it's like, it's the more annoying thing is that these fixes are one guy could probably do it. Like it's not even like you need a team or whatever. One dude could probably make this happen.
Well, that's the
and
thing.
they just
in most
don't
cases,
fucking do it.
In most cases, it's one dude modding the game that fixes it for everybody.
Yeah. So. And they won't even take his work and go, yeah, we'll pay you to do it, or we'll give you money for your fix or whatever. And the sick thing is more than likely what'll happen is they'll probably re-release versions of this game for these consoles so that you can pay now for the enhanced PS5 version, or Did they re-release Skyrim re-enhanced edition? Because it was already enhanced once. If it's here, is it re-enhanced or like what is
again?
Enhanced plus? Like what do
yeah.
you do?
That's a good point. I mean, I think
what's their naming convention when they do this again?
The Dovahkiin edition, and it comes with a real helmet.
Oh.
It comes with a real helmet you can put on. And
will that one have lead in it as well, like the 76 one did, or?
Yeah, it'll have mold.
Yeah, mold. That's what it was. Yeah.
It'll have mold. It'll have a little button you can press, and it'll play different shouts. It's going to be a really cool addition of the game. Also,
That's
it'll be
cute.
locked at 30 on the PS5.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love it. It's also funny too, though, and this is like a side note, but it is hilarious now seeing people with consoles talking about frame rates, like, because they're now like getting them. So they're like, I can't believe it's only locked at 60. And like, what the fuck are you talking about, dog? When did this ever been an issue? You guys used to make fun of us for like being stoked at 144 hertz or 240 or whatever the fuck. And then now it's like they're getting this elitist side of them. Like, everyone's fine. And now it kills me.
Yeah.
Gamers are fucking silly, dog.
Yeah, it's a silly time out there, especially if you were excited about getting a PS5 and then shit like this happens.
Yeah, so what is this now? I've seen some reports of, I guess, people's consoles getting a little bricked, but I don't know what from.
So I picked a smaller website. A lot of people are talking about this. I just like giving the little man a little boost every once in a while.
From our gigantic audience, yeah.
From our gigantic audience. I don't know. I just like I like looking at smaller publications.
No, I get you.
But yeah, there's a lot of people reporting rest mode issues with the PS5. So there seems to be like a couple common denominators. One being like using any kind of external storage or attempting to use external storage. They haven't opened up that option yet, as far as I know. Yeah. I think in a recent update they opened some compatibility or something like that, because there were reports of people like having external drives or at least like backups of their games from the PS4 loaded onto this one.
Well, those drives may work. There's an actual NVMe slot in these that you can fill as an internal storage. There is just, it straight up just looks like a motherboard's NVMe slot, but I guess there's apparently certain, I can't remember the bandwidth type, but it's like NVMe, I don't know, 3.0 or 4.0 or some shit or whatever they're doing with that, that's in there, but they're either, they haven't opened up usage of that, or I think it's a mixture of that, and then there's not NVMEs yet that are certified or usable for it or something. I don't know. There's some like weird caveat to it.
Yeah.
External USB drives, I imagine, probably still work, I would guess, though.
Yeah. Technically, rest mode could cause the system to shut down, which forces an external HDD to rebuild the database. It's rebuilding that's the issue, even on your PS4 off. So yeah, removing hard drive fixed it for me. I don't know. That's what I was hearing, is that like some people were using hard drives on it, but like you, I thought that functionality wasn't quite there yet.
Well, that's why I was wondering. I think it's just the internal, because a USB drive shouldn't make a difference, I wouldn't think, because you're not booting. I don't know actually what you're doing with it, as far as they go, because I've never used one on these things.
I guess while we're here, this was funny, because the issue with the PlayStation is that it clocks in at like a measly like 650 terabytes or gigabytes after all said and done with the OS and everything.
Yeah, so that's what's crazy, is I thought the 825 would be the storage after the OS and all that shit. I had no idea it's even less than that.
Yeah, it's less.
That's fucking ridiculous.
It's pretty bad.
That's ridiculous. I can't. There's no, like, cool, good on them that they're, and maybe it's because they couldn't get the price down low enough otherwise. So they were like, well, we have to just do. It's crazy that they would cut it down to 825 from a terabyte or something like that. But I guess if you put 500 on there and only got, what would that be, like 320 something, you'd be pissed. Like there would be no There'd be no way around that.
I mean, absolutely, and like Call of Duty is still like a 200 something game or 200.
Fortnite's not a slouch either. I mean, they reduced it, but it's still. I mean, it had another like 8 gig pack today or something. I saw when I just loaded up Epic Store for a second.
I just think it's hilarious that it's been like a very common complaint, and Sony's like, we're not hearing that. We have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, I'm not even like. Here's the thing. I'm not gonna come out and say like I called it, but I did mention several times. I'm like, hey, I wonder why they're not mentioning the storage on this thing. I wonder why we're not getting the actual thing. Even when you pre-ordered it, it just says disc or discless. It doesn't say this is what's in there. Is the discless one less or is it the same? Like, are they completely identical? Just one doesn't have the drive on it.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, I don't think.
I mean, good on them for that, I guess, because if you're comparing it to the S, at least there's 160 some odd more gigs than that one has, with the exact same specs. Which that one there's a little less on that too, but yeah, that's a bad call. I think. I mean, again, I think they did it for pricing more than anything. That's actually, since we're on it, that's another weird thing is I've been looking at all the secondhand markets or whatever, because obviously we've been talking about scalping stuff the last couple of weeks. Noticing a lot of really questionable resellers now on these too, because I'm seeing a lot of like $500 PS5s with extra controller and all this stuff, and I'm like, that's really weird. Yeah. Launch week, other people are selling it for this, and you're selling it for MSR less than MSRP, including another $80 controller with it. That seems a little weird. And I'm noticing a lot of like at less than MSRP for this, which then indicates why are you reselling it right now? Do you also not notice these other resellers? And then why are you losing on it if you could even get what you paid right now, like with the controller, with tax, whatever? It's really strange. It almost seems like they're either one, they're stolen, two, they may be these bricked ones that they're just like, here you go. Because a couple of them, too, were, like, all deliver, and it's like, well, not that, like, you want to go meet people, we're, still in a pandemic or whatever. So it is questionable that, a lot of these are either still in the box, technically speaking, or I haven't seen any of them plugged to a working TV. So it's just, it's a lot of weird, shady shit with these.
Of course. It's the PS5 market, the after sales scalper market. Of course, there's going to be dudes out there like scamming them for at-cost systems that are either busted or fucking stolen. That's just it's crazy. That's the nature of it, man.
I saw one dude had 8 of them in his house, and he was like $1,200 a piece.
Oh,
and
dude!
I was like, Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, also with when the SNES Classic came out, like there were so many pictures. Like we mentioned this, but there were so many pictures of like some Susan's dining room table, and it had like 40 of these fucking things, and it's like I can't even find one.
And it's crazy that they would steal their grandmother's credit card and just put that all on her dining room table like that. And then when she couldn't get her dialysis machine because he bought too many of these things that you never sold again because you're a dumb fuck and I hate you.
Well, Xbox isn't without their faults either. They got some problems. Right. This is like a collection of pretty much everything that's been going on with it.
I heard one was just leaking Monster Energy, and then the controller shoots vape juice out of it.
Yeah, it's really weird. Shit. It starts talking to you about cryptocurrency. Like
that is odd.
It's vape every once in a while. It's very fucking weird.
Yeah, Red Bull girls keep coming to your door if you get one. It's sort of like the Axe body spray of consoles, where just the chicks just show up right at your door because you bought it. It's crazy.
It's really weird. Really weird. BMX
Phil Spencer sends you a Target gift card in the mail. It just says "with love," and you're like, "Oh, thanks, Phil."
People
not really a problem, but
back flipping over your house and a bunch of jets going off.
As soon as you turn it on, it's required that Travis Pastrana does a backflip over your house and then goes on to the next house and just keeps going down the block. He's sort of like an extreme sports Santa, just doling out tricks for the holidays. That's really cool.
The Series X is for Series Extreme. That's why you got all these.
Yeah, dude. And then Series S is for Series Sick. It's sick and extreme. They're both dope as fuck, though.
There have been reports of this thing shutting down, controllers desyncing, not being compatible with some of the HDMI formats out there on 4K TVs. There's been some videos out there of like, I wonder if I can find some, but there have been some videos of like the fans kind of squealing or making like weird grinding noises.
Okay.
You know, I think a lot.
Honestly, I think it's the design of the thing is really strange because you just have this like, that like grill at the top is just like I don't know, like a full-on dusk intake, or it'll drop in anything, or a bug or anything can just go. It's really weird. Like, I haven't seen one in person to know like how big those holes are, but they don't look tiny. Like, it seems like you just have like this really weird open gap at the top for anything to just fall into, which is odd to me. But I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a dust filter in it or some other shit. I haven't really seen a teardown of it, so I really don't know. But it seems like a weird design choice for that.
Yeah, maybe it's all the people who are blowing vape into their Xbox who are having the issues. Who knows?
It could be. I mean, if you blow a sick, dirty cloud into there, I mean, the console's going to get addicted. I mean, that's what happens. It's nicotine, so the console's going to get addicted to that juice, and it's going to whine until it gets more. So maybe that's what it's doing. It's just clacking around an old a jewel pod in there, just trying to bang. It's like when the police warden would scrape his like nightclub against the bars of a jail cell. It's the Xbox holding a jewel pod against the vents at the top, scraping it like, please do give me some more.
Did you ever notice how the Xbox One X kind of looks like a jewel? Like, it kind of looks like a jewel. I'm just saying.
I mean, you ever notice the triangle on a dollar bill, dog? I know what you're saying. I get it.
That's right.
You ever notice how as soon as you bought an Xbox One X, you had a Monster Energy branded on your thigh? It was really crazy, but you wake up one day and there's just like this weird brand on you. It's really weird.
Yeah, you wake up with a sponsorship somehow. It's fucking...
It's weird. Actually... It's crazy because when the Xbox Series X first came out, I remember Phil Spencer came out on stage and said that they were doing like this charity event. And they said for every Xbox Series X pre-order, they'd donate a dirt bike to a less fortunate child. So they were like, they went over to Africa and sort of just gave starving children dirt bikes. And they're having a great time. They're still fucking starving, but they're sick now. They're really sick.
Is that true, by the way?
Fuck no.
I was gonna say. That sounds like some out of touch real life promotion, though. That does sound.
Isn't that great what we've gotten to in the world where you think that buying an Xbox you would give starving children dirt bikes?
Just saying, dude.
And that seems somehow plausible. I know. We're in the most horrible timeline. It's just I think it's you know what's funny about that is I've used something similar about that for like a I used it as a stand-up bit at one point. I was like, for every can of Monster Energy sold, they would donate a dirt bike to a less fortunate child, and it rarely ever got a laugh. And I'm curious if it's because they think that's what happened. Like it's never been like. There's a few people that have really loved it, but it was one of those things where like maybe it's not funny, or two, what you just said, maybe it is believable enough to where it's like, I don't know about that. Like, it's just, I don't know.
It's too on the nose, because I think that is the exact type of like out of touch marketing. It's like dancing for work hours on TikTok. Like it's
yeah,
that
I guess
level
that's true.
just saying.
And if anybody was going to do it, it would be an energy drink company to do something stupid like that too. So I guess yeah, you know what? Maybe that's what happened.
But I'll say real quick before we move on to the next thing, the one.
Oh no, this is what we're talking about.
The one complaint about Xbox One X crashes is that like it's that they're experiencing the Windows 10 series of vocabulary when it comes to your crashes, where it's just like something went wrong. That's
Oh. Yeah, actually, I've noticed a lot of that on the Grounded forums. People were posting like, it's an issue with your graphics display driver, or it'll be an issue with, it'll be like an error code tied to a graphics card, and you're like, people on consoles are just like, what the fuck is this? And it's like, well, it does have a graphics card, but that is a really weird error that you're getting because It's not something that usually surface to you in any meaning capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really weird. I thought they were just crashing because no one was able to play any games because it didn't have any. I thought that was sort of the big issue. Is it's like it was crashing during Xbox 360 games because that's the only thing on it right now.
Dude,
but
yeah, very, very. I don't know, man. Out of the two, like, being as how I'm a Game Pass subscribed to Game Pass, you can get $1 for your first month.
Hell yeah.
Being subscribed to Game Pass makes makes the Xbox like way more like desirable to me. I don't know, because there's plenty of things.
I totally get it. I mean it's well, I do and I don't, because again it's that thing of like, if you're already on a PC subscribed to it, what's the point? And then it's that other side of like, I mean honestly now Game Pass makes a lot more sense. Because I was at Target earlier, and I'll tell you, I did almost buy a PS5 controller for no reason, just because they had them. I was like, you know what? I would like to feel it, even though it's not going to be right, but I kind of want to hold it. But it was that thing of like, I looked at Dark Souls, and I was like, oh yeah, that's $70. That game is $70. I didn't realize, I forgot that we are transitioning to this more expensive market. And then again, you look at Game Pass another time, and it's like, oh, that's only $10 for everything they have,
it's
as
insane.
opposed to $70 for one thing. It's like, and GameStop's still only gonna give you $20 when you bring it back to them. So it's not even like they're gonna up their coolness whenever you return it or trade it in or whatever. So it's like, their proposition gets even better when you look at that pricing scape. What I really wish Microsoft would do, because especially now that I'm in this space more, is like, why don't they give us some VR stuff for the PC? Like, why don't they just start bringing some VR content to the PC only one? Which I think there was some stuff I was reading recently that there's been leaks and stuff in the internals of the new consoles that has said Scarlet headset or Scarlet HMD, which is like the code name for their console before, but it tied to a VR headset of some kind is the thought there. Which they don't have any of that yet, and Sony still does. So that's cool, so hopefully maybe that will come sooner than later, which would be really neat. We need another big player coming in that isn't Facebook and Oculus for that one, and Microsoft is the company to do it at this point, especially with all the studios they're getting anyway.
Well, I would honestly love to see like Valve take another crack at like an affordable range of headsets. To be honest, like I think like if Valve could corner that market for VR, I think they would have something, because like they know the Index is like the end all be all premium thing right now, but there's still that huge barrier in my opinion.
Well, the thing is though, is like it is still like, I was kind of doing the math on it, and it's like, it's pretty affordable, really. Like if I take into account like everything that's in there, because I was looking at like the base stations, right? They sell them for like $150. Vive sells them for $200 a piece. So that's $400 for two of those trackers already. So that's like if you're not getting it directly from them or whatever. So that's already almost half the cost of the thing. Mm-hmm. The cable itself, when you buy another one, is like $130. So now we're up to half. The headset itself is $500. If you're looking at like the controllers themselves or whatever, it is, and those are probably the most. I don't want to say overly priced thing, but the thing where the pricing doesn't make as much sense, because it is like they are like $200 and some or whatever for them, for whatever they are, and then the headset itself is like only really $500, and then. I don't know. Again, it's when I looked at it in its totality, it's like, yeah, that's expensive. But when you actually break down everything that's in the thing, you're like, this is actually really not that bad compared to, like, if you wanted the same controllers on, say, like the G2, that's like $600 for the headset, $400 for base stations, and then another $370 or $275 or whatever for controllers or some shit. So you're like, you're already over the cost of this thing just for a higher resolution screen, and then. And then I mean, obviously the Oculus is still a better deal if you're just jumping in, but it's still. I think you have to look at that thing as like a $500 headset as opposed to $300. Like $300 will get you in, but to really get out of it what you need, it's like it needs a new strap, it needs a new cable, it needs a few other things to really make it there. I would even argue it's probably at the 600 mark. Though if it gets 120 hertz, that makes that argument a bit better still, because then if you're doing that over an $80 cable, then yeah, 380 or whatever for that is pretty reasonable. But yeah, that's a whole nother issue.
I will say, because you brought it up real quick about like GameStop. Did you hear about this? I don't know if we talked about it. This happened a while ago, actually.
Oh yeah, no, we did. Because yeah, they're getting some. They're doing like their digital sales through GameStop or something like that, and they're getting some portion of it or whatever.
I think we flew by it. Like, trying to remember.
Well, it's such a weird thing because we were talking about it and it ended up just being like, oh yeah, but they have Game Pass, so what are they? Who's gonna buy the games if they're a Game Pass subscriber? So
that's true. Yeah,
it's almost like a hey, fuck you, GameStop. Yeah, we'll give you a few scraps like you've given everyone else. Yeah, GameStop's a weird one. That's why I've been sort of debating because Hyrule Warriors comes out in a little bit, and I was like, do I really want a physical version of that game? Because I don't know if I'm gonna hold on to it. Or if I'm just gonna get I don't know. That's besides the point. That's my own.
If you buy it physical and you're not big into it, I'll buy it off. Just a heads up. That
is tempting. Yeah. Because the only thing that was hanging up is I have like $20 credit on the storefront still. But yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Are you not? Is it not one you're grabbing immediately?
Not right away.
Yeah,
because the big game's right around the corner, and I'm still like heavy into Assassin's Creed right now, which we'll talk about later. But
yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah,
very very odd. I got into that game, but also
like I said before, if it's the first one you've played, it makes sense that you're enjoying it as much as you are. Because like I said, for me it was like if this. Well, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
we don't have to get into AAC right now.
Yeah, just to blitz through this real quick. There is a new update coming to Animal Crossing, so dust your Switch off. If you haven't played it in a while.
They're doing Thanksgiving and Christmas. What?
I know, dude. You never saw it coming. You never saw this coming.
What? I like this dude though.
I actually think it's the first time they've done like Thanksgiving. I think they've like alluded to Thanksgiving, but something like this, I think it's like the first time. Toy Days.
I always did like Christmas and Animal Crossing games though.
I'm really excited for winter. Like actually pretty excited for that. I did the Halloween event. It was fun. It was all right.
Yeah, my partner did. I didn't touch it, but she was pretty into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm into it. The trick-or-treating was fun, so I imagine the gift passing out's going to be a lot like it. Trick-or-treating in the end just kind of became like give out these candies and get the Halloween-themed items that you didn't get during the season. So it was good to like catch up with it. Or a couple exclusive items, I think, but...
Oh, is this just emotes? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah,
new reactions.
Yeah, they're adding new reactions. They're adding new hairstyles, which I think they'll show in a minute.
Well, is that what what was the hip reaction thing that it showed before? Was that what the emotes are tied to, or?
Yeah, it's just an extra set of them.
Gotcha.
Which
they added skin color too was another one, right? That was a big one I was seeing people talk about. That like they're finally representing everybody, which is cool. Which should have already happened realistically, but that's cool that they're doing that now.
They yep. Save data transfers are coming, and then they're teasing their next expansion or their next update, like they always do.
Oh, it's about time. It's only been a year since they've been gimmickingly or making you jump through weird hurdles to get your game back. So that's cool that they're finally going like, you know what? We're fucking dumb. Here you go, because it's a stupid fucking way to do it.
I'll say this. The most exciting thing is they're doubling the storage in the game, because that's been my biggest hang up. It's like I'm buying all these things, getting all these things, and my storage is almost full. But you have to pay off your basement debt, like the last debt before you can expand your storage. And
Oh, my shit's paid, man.
a lot of well, like when I got to the end of the house expansion, I was like, why do I need to pay you again? I have all the rooms. What do you?
Yeah. Oh no,
yeah.
I mean, dude, them turnips treated a boy well. There was one weekend where I made like 23 million, and then I was like, fuck it, I'll just get rid of this, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
So I haven't. That's what broke the game for me though. It was like after I did all that, I was like, well, that's that. And I think it was that.
Clean.
Yeah, I was like, after I was like, now that I don't owe Nook shit, and then I caught whatever that first fish was that was like insane to catch that I made like 400 or so baits for or whatever.
Yeah.
The sturgeon fish or string fish or sturgeon, whatever it was, I can't remember. But I got that one, and then I was like, man, do I really want to catch a digital fish for more time forever? I think I burned myself out of it, really, is what I did, but I do kind of miss it.
Yeah. I'm excited to jump back into it, and if I can like transfer my save somewhere else, and then like I have this half of mine to like restart the whole thing. Like half of me really wants to do that, but
I see it a lot. I mean, honestly, because I'm in a few groups for it still, and I mean, there's at least 3 or 4 every day that are like, all right, just restarted. What's the layout for me? Which one should I go for? And I'm like, you guys are fucking nuts. But a lot of, actually, that's a big thing to mention is you can't time travel to these events. That was something that people had mentioned being pissed about is they can't cheat anymore, or they can't, do whatever they're doing.
You can go back to them, but you can't jump to them. Which
good.
I'll be real with you. Like these
I think
days,
that's totally reasonable. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that you're gonna get upset about them not letting you break their game.
Yeah. But like I understand when somebody tells me that like, oh, I missed this event because I had this shit going on. I'm gonna go back to it. Whatever. Doesn't really bother me that much.
I didn't see any of Halloween. Like I would kind of like to go spend a day going through all that stuff, but
Yeah, but it's like the people who like, what kills it for me is like people will get on Reddit and then they'll be like the people who got all the pirate items like the first day that thing released, and it's like, how did you do this? And it like makes the whole thing almost seem moot at that point. Like, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing is they're not doing it for like, they're not doing it because it's like, oh, I have such limited time, I want to go see this content. It's like I'm doing it so I can get all these items and then go sell them secondhand to someone for more money in the game economy or real money or some weird shit. So it's like, it's just like you're I don't know. It's just it's a weird. This game has such a weird fan base now that it's so open ended. It has such a weird economy around it and everything else. Like I would have never expected Animal Crossing. Well, one, to take off the way it did, but that's again by virtue, I think, of the pandemic. But also just that. Yeah, just the things that people have decided to do or the markets they've made around this game or all this other crazy shit. And it's not like video games are devoid of secondhand sellers for digital items and shit. I mean, Fallout 76 had a huge issue with that when it was first coming out. But it is really weird to then go... Because there was also people selling, like, hacked items or whatever. It was, like, some trees that would grow, like...
the star bits.
Like, star bits and all this other shit. Yeah, and it's just like, man, you guys are really... Like, I get being into a game. Like, it's cool to see, but it is one of those things it's like... I don't know. It's something about it makes it really uneasy because it's such a relaxing game that became this really weird, like, digital stock market strange deal.
Yeah, I mean, it took the world by storm. Like, I knew New Leaf was pretty big for them, but, like, not culturally big. You know what I mean? Like, it was big for people who liked Animal Crossing and Nintendo. But, like...
New Leaf was excellent.
Thing. Yeah. It got so big that Joe Biden decided to have his own island. Now you can't do that anymore.
Is that what this was about? Is that what it was in reference to? So was it actually his island? Like, what was the thing there? Because we couldn't figure it out when we talked about
it. It was his campaign. Just some guy, doing a Joe Biden thing in Animal Crossing, trying to goose up those kids to go vote.
Right. That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, like they came out on their new terms and service. This is like their rules for Animal Crossing. And right here you can see where is it? It says, please do also refrain from bringing politics into the game. So using the game inappropriately, creating content within the game that would be considered vulgar. You know, the typical stuff that we've come to expect. Don't share false information about the game with anyone. Do not leverage the game as a marketing platform, which you've seen a lot of fucking people doing.
Right.
So
yeah, this is crazy too. You're not allowed to obtain any financial benefit there, because there's that one dude that does a podcast in Animal Crossing. I wonder what that does for him.
That's what I wonder. Well, no, this means like selling things in the game. Like I think
it's pretty open-ended, because it says you're not allowed to obtain any financial benefit from using the game, including selling your custom designs or earning any advertising revenue with game content.
Oh shit! Yeah. Huh.
You see what I'm saying? It's really open-ended. It's not. It also just says including, not this is only. It just says including these two examples. So I wonder about that, because that sucks. 'Cause that's a really good idea, and that thing does pretty well. So, I mean, hey, leaving it to Nintendo, they're gonna squash any kind of fun you get to have outside of the game. Yeah. But I mean, I guess it is. Again, it is what I was just saying, which is super strange.
It's kind of a bummer if they start going after that guy and like other people doing.
Oh wow, this is crazy too, though. As a marketing platform, directing people to sales, distributing coupons, sweepstakes, giveaways, requiring people to see your network. Yeah, or invitational activities. Invitational activities is a really interesting one too, because that's really open-ended as well. Because that almost even means if you're a streamer, you could get in trouble for having people invited to your island as something from the stream or some shit. I mean, I'm not saying they would do this, but it gives them the ability to go, well, we did a giveaway on our stream to then come to the hangout on the island. That technically falls under misuse of the game. Again, not to say that they would use that, but have it. This is some very open-ended lawyer shit here. They're just like, hey, we're blanketing everything that you could possibly do, just in case we need it. Not that it's gonna happen, but it's pretty strange.
Nintendo doing their thing as usual.
That's Nintendo for you, boy. Yeah. Interesting.
I don't want to talk about this one too much. I really just pulled it up because it had to do with Skull and Bones, and I've been addicted to Sea of Thieves lately. I
didn't even realize they were still doing this game.
Yeah, me neither. That's why I kind of brought this up. Yes, I am using an ad blocker, Eurogamer. Feel bad about it. Thank you.
I do feel terrible. Thank you.
I do feel bad. One of their managing studio directors for Skull and Bones was caught up in some touchy-feely nonsense, being a sweet pervert at work. So he's no longer with Ubisoft.
It's weird. That only happens with every game company all the time. Isn't it strange?
Very weird.
You know what? Okay, this is it's in line with this, but for different reasons. But so, like, Jack and I have been going through all of Adam Sandler's collection of his worst rated films, as we touched on a little bit last week. Grown Ups 1, 2, etc. Mm-hmm. We watched Hubie Halloween this week, which was his newest film. Pretty shitty. Another bad one. That movie within the first 5 minutes has him throwing up, riding a bike down the street, and then continues to him being extremely illiterate. I don't know what his character is. He's like, the Adam Sandler movies, they're either mentally handicapped but really have some strange athletic prowess, or they're very rich and have married extremely overly attractive women for him. That's like the only two characters he ever plays. And this one falls into he seems mentally mentally deficient, but has like insanely good reflexes as all these kids throw shit at him on a bike or whatever, which happened 6 times. They did the same gag 6 times in this movie. Anyway, that one's not important. What is important is last night we watched Jack and Jill, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Also, completely blanketed in advertising because he is in that movie an advertising consultant. So Pepto-Bismol, Coke, Dunkin' Donuts, everybody's getting in.
Yeah, the Dunkachino, dude. Of course.
The Dunkachino, the Pepto-Bismol, the Cokes in the movie theater, just like faced out every single one. It's insane. The thing about it though is, in the same scene, they have Jared Fogle from Subway and they have the ShamWow guy in the same like 2 scenes. It's like Jared talking to these Jared hanging out with these what seem to be younger women, and this was 2 years before his allegations came out, and then the ShamWow guy, which was 2 years after his bullshit came out. So it was like you have 2 fucking massive perverts in this weird film about marketing. And yeah, it was really strange to see. I don't know what the point of any of that was. But I guess because they were involved in sexual misconduct, and I hate Adam Sandler movies now. Yeah. But it was. Oh, Billy Banks was in there, the Ty Bo guy, which I don't think he did anything except for wearing outfits that has his nipples out of it every time, which I always thought was really strange. But that's not an offense. That's just an outfit choice that he had. Like, it was like workout attire. It was like a tank top, but it would come under his breast and then go down. It was like some really weird thing where you just saw stance.
It's a really bad time. Bad time that you're putting yourself through all that.
It is. I think we have either Ridiculous 6, I think, is next up on there, which somehow has scored lower than Grown Ups 2, which I don't think is fair. Because I remember watching this movie a while ago, and I don't remember it being like that terrible. I don't remember it being good, but I definitely don't remember it being as bad as Grown Ups 2. But anyway, gaming perverts. What do we got?
I did want to... Because, like, it just reminded me that Skull and Bones, like, nothing's happened with it. And I guess it's because old dude was kind of a raging pervert.
But he can't stop a whole studio from doing stuff by just trying to do everybody. I mean, there's got to be more going on to this game than that.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
That's all.
It doesn't seem like it.
I mean, just when you're like, there's no news about this game. I guess the big news is that old dude's a creepy man, a creepy sex weirdo.
The guy's a touchy pervy boy, and which is not cool either. But it is strange that there's bone in the title. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I think
put 2 and 2 together, dude.
I think it even says there the black horn. What do you think that means?
So I guess, like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know where this game is, what it's doing, but I guess it's not getting anywhere anytime soon because their creative director is too busy diddling
I don't think it was anyway. I'm sure this guy did some terrible stuff, but I wouldn't put it past the studio to, like, have something happen like this so they can at least either... This is terrible to say because I'm sure people have, like... Whatever he's done is terrible, and I'm sure of it. But it is one of those things where it's like, it does weirdly bring this game back into light because people probably forgot about it. As someone who even follows games, I completely forgot about this game. And 2, it does sort of give them leeway to even push it back farther to continue work on it if they're going to or something like that. Because now it's like, well, we've got a reason why we're not working on it, or we've got a reason to push it back. We've got all this other stuff. I don't know. Obviously I don't think that's the intention, but it is this weird thing of like that now is a part of this too. When obviously it's definitely not the focus by any means. Whatever he did is clearly that's the thing. But
I mean, it sucks for the people who worked on it that has to like shadow their work. For
sure.
It's not great.
No, it isn't. It is weird. Yeah, it's really weird because I don't even know like I said, I have no idea what's happening with this game whatsoever, or even if it is happening anyway. Because I feel like this game was supposed to come out a while ago. Like, maybe it wasn't, but it seems like... I mean, you look at this, you're like, that's a totally playable game right there. And that was 2 years ago. So, on a foundation of a game that already existed. They're just tweaking like their naval combat and engine stuff that was already present and working in other games they've made. So that's another thing that why you're just like questioning why it's taken so long.
See, the thing though is that like this game seems okay.
I mean, it just looks like Black Flag to me, but I mean, which was a super fun game. Or it looks like Black Flag, or it looks like Odyssey. It's the same thing. Or Assassin's Creed Rogue, which have all had this same kind of boat combat in it.
I just originally thought that it was like a pirate simulation game, like they were trying to feed off of some of that Sea of Thieves stuff. But I had to go back and see this to even remember what this game was. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, no, because Black Flag came out way before Sea of Thieves did. Yeah. And it's effectively this game right here.
So it's like a more arcadey approach to ship and naval combat.
I mean, it really just seems like the ship combat in Black Flag. Or like a team-based ship thing. But it doesn't seem like you're getting off this boat at all. Unless that's maybe the direction they started taking it. Maybe that's why it takes so long. But at that point, they're just making an Assassin's Creed game again. So, I don't know.
Hey, a multiplayer Black Flag might be pretty cool. That could be cool.
Yeah. It would have been cool. It still would have been cool 2 years ago. I just don't know what's taking so fucking long. Yeah, I'm actually excited about this.
Yeah, just I guess real quick we'll show this off. So they are working on updating Mass Effect for the next gen consoles and also PC, of course. But they are basically remastering that series. So if you like those games, they're coming at you.
Dude, I can't wait. Playing that first game with some better combat would be amazing because that game is really great and the story is great, but it doesn't feel good to play. The second one, excellent. Third one, I think really solid as well.
And that's kind of what they said, right? Is that they're like bringing the first one in line with the next ones or the ones that came after it?
I think that was what it was. Yeah. Which is great because they're really good and more people should experience that trilogy because it's really good. Mm-hmm. And if you can bring that to a new group of folks too, great, because that's such a good game.
I mean, I guess they're also teasing the next one, which I guess after Andromeda, I was surprised that they're even going to tackle that again. But
I need to find a. Well, I thought. Do you remember when when Game Pass is getting EA rolled into it?
Well, so I was going to mention that earlier when we were talking about like what's the proposition of having Game Pass on console. Is that the EA stuff is on the console right now. That's not coming to PC later. But also the console gets like other exclusive games and licenses that the PC doesn't get. But
well, yeah. Sure. But do you know when that is coming to PC though? Have they said?
Game Pass, PC, EA Play. Oh, I guess right now.
Where they at?
I'm trying to see. Not just yet. Game Pass Ultimate. I know you have to be on Ultimate, but don't know when.
Well, yeah, but see, it's all the benefits of EA Play get access. I think it's like. Well, that looks like it's
soon, right? It's got to be soon.
I could have sworn it was like
Xbox One.
Let me see if I can do.
It's got to be somewhere. I know that they mentioned. I mean, shit. I have the Xbox app right here.
Yeah, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members get
starting
EA
in
Play
December
on November
2020.
10th.
Right here on there.
Okay, on PC. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Well,
here.
so I guess next month I'll try and play Andromeda because I would like to see it now way after and see if that changes anything.
I mean, apparently they did like go back and fix some things, but I think the opinion was pretty soured on that game, so like people didn't really give it light of day.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'd like to give it I mean, if it's free, I'd like to give it a try and see, because I
Hmm.
was a huge fan of the other one. If there's any redeeming quality there, I'd like to see it. But, um, yeah, who knows?
Yeah, so that's a
I
coming.
guess whoever has played it, they know. But
I think like early, like probably quarter two next year is when that thing's coming. Or did they say it was like a March release? I think
what's that?
the new Mass Effect trilogy re-release.
Oh, I
Uh,
don't know.
I think they came out and gave a date.
Spring of
Spring
2021.
2021. Okay, so yeah, quarter two probably. Not bad. Not a bad launch window for that.
Yeah, no. I
Um,
wonder how long they've been working on. Do they say who's doing it? Like what studio or anything? I mean, I guess it's not necessarily
uh,
mandatory, but
just says our team at BioWare has been hard at work updating the texture shaders, models, and
oh,
effects
sure, okay.
and technical features. So that's the one that people were like, "Oh, are they updating like the engine for 1 and 2 to like be in line with 3?"
Yeah,
We'll
especially
see.
one. One needs it the most. I think two is still a totally playable game, but one is like it's the shooting in that game is insane. Like your target for the assault rifle is like this big, and you can just it's like it looks like a shotgun reticle. It's just a giant circle, and it could go anywhere in that spot.
Yeah, exactly. Um, there's something in here that's gonna make you pretty happy, I think, if you were
What's that?
following any of this. Well, I mean,
I heard what Resident Evil 4 VR is like a big one that's supposed to be happening. But
that's
that might be
coming.
an Oculus exclusive.
But just to give some background real quick, Capcom got hit by a ransomware attack. Unfortunately, it came out today that like 300,000 or 30,000 people's like credit card information was compromised.
Tight, very
Overall,
cool.
not cool that this happened, but also very cool that this happened. You know what I
Go
mean?
ahead.
Because we
Yeah.
got news from it. Uh, this is the big one that I think you would like. Monster Hunter World is one of Capcom's most successful games ever. No surprise it has big plans for the franchise. According to the leak, Capcom is going to bring Monster Hunter Rise to the PC at some point in October 2021. So probably skip it on Switch if you really want to. Uh, but yeah,
Shit.
that's a coming.
Yeah, it says Stories 2 might also have a
Yeah.
PC port.
Uh,
Ooh.
yeah, pretty
Ooh,
good, huh?
ooh.
It sucks
Damn.
that yeah, like I said, sucks this happened, but
That does suck, but that is good to know. I mean, I guess I
yes.
won't be able to pay for it because they have my credit card information. Somebody else does now, but I mean, it's cool that that's happening at some point.
And like things like this change all the time, so like, you know, they could have gotten their hands on promotional materials that like maybe a project that's still far along, who knows.
Yeah.
But there is like a new Resident Evil like 4 coming for Oculus, which is cool.
It would have been if it wasn't just on Oculus. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure people are going to have a great time with it, but
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's like a timed exclusive for Oculus, and it'll come to the other stuff because that's not the first time that's happened.
yeah, I don't know. The Facebook thing just makes me so uncomfortable with this stuff just cuz it's like it's not even the Facebook requires a login or any of that stuff. It's just that they're trying to wall off the Oculus stuff from every other VR headset, and that sucks. That part
Yeah.
really sucks.
Uh,
Just sell it on your store to anybody. You'll make the money. Just fucking come on. What are you doing?
I mean, I'm sure people have, and I mean, I don't endorse this, but I'm sure people have like hacked together a solution for playing Oculus.
Well, you can play on Revive, which is like a workaround that
Yeah.
that launches through the Oculus store and then into whatever headset. But the thing with that is like it's just one guy that does that. I think like there's one dude that runs the mod or whatever, and then it's also like a thing where Facebook's just letting it happen, but they could cut that off whenever they feel like it, and or he could just stop doing it. So it's like the only good solution you have could end at any point, and it's frustrating to see because again it's VR being in such its early, not early, but like it's stages of where it's at. It's like, yeah, this is the last thing we need is you just make a lot of good games only on inferior hardware.
Yeah.
is irritating. What is that Ace Attorney thing though? What do they got going on there?
Ace Attorney, a great Ace
7.
Attorney. Yeah, it's like the next game in the series coming out next year. There's also doing
PS4, huh?
Yeah, they're doing a bundle for that as well.
Okay. Have you played any of those before?
No, I haven't. No, and I mean, I get their legacy. They look cool. I just never.
They're pretty neat. They're super silly though.
It's like a visual novel almost, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it is. There's more to it, I think, than most of those though, because it's like you're doing detective work, trying to call out clues and stuff, and then the characters are all just bananas, so that adds to it, I think. It's pretty neat. But that's one where I would say, if you are interested in a game like that, Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc is like a really good one of those, because that's like sort of more gamified, but a similar concept to that of like a trial and all that.
Yeah, I'll probably try it out. I still have a 3DS. I wonder if like I could just pick up those games, because I think it's like a re-release of the two.
They have like a Switch version that's like comes down on sale for like $14 or something that has like all 3 of them or something, like the first 3.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Worth getting.
Resident Evil 8 will have some multiplayer project tied to it, but other than that, there were a couple of codenamed games that got leaked. There's one called Guillotine that comes out in February, and then other platforms in May. There's also this one called Reiwa, however you want to pronounce that. And then there's another multiplayer project called Shield. Aimed at Twitch streamers, so it might be just like some like weird.
I think it might just be an actual assassin sent out into the world to take out streamers.
To take out streamers.
Yeah,
probably.
I don't think that has anything to do with the game.
Yeah, unfortunate that happened and people's info got leaked, but hey, Monster
there was
Hunter
another
Rise
big
for
leak
PC
recently, actually, too, though. I think it was. Who was it? Might have been Apple. It was somebody that like had a big one for all things. Or maybe it wasn't Apple. It was somebody else. They had a bit. I can't remember. I can't speak on it because I can't remember what it was. But there was another large one recently.
Yeah, if you remember, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I guess we'll
go
over
on
this
website because this thing is running like it really runs wild. Just with it has like it was like ramping up my CPU and disk usage for whatever being on this website. I don't know fucking why. Maybe because of all this,
dude.
Yeah, look at all that.
So cool.
Yeah, mainly the thing is that like, so these are the nominees for Game of the Year if you just scroll down just a little bit.
Yeah, here they are.
And Half-Life Alyx is the only AAA 90+ score game that's not on the list for best game of the year, which is pretty annoying. Especially considering like Ghost of Tsushima and Final Fantasy Remake are on there. Not that those are bad games, but like I don't know.
Ghost of Tsushima, like, it's weird because like I'll talk about later, I'm into Assassin's Creed, but dude, Ghost of Tsushima just not. There was something about it that just did not do it for me, and I don't know what it was. And it's a shame because I like Sucker Punch's other games.
So do I. Yeah, it's just it's another open world game, and I don't know. And then you look at Final Fantasy, and it's like it's part 1 of a game where they just kind of took the story and then just pulled it apart to extend the game for a long period of time, but not really like.
That game, like the diehards.
Like it seems fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The diehards, I remember loved it when it first came out, and then it was like that same thing that happens with most games, where it's like a month later, the critique videos start coming out on YouTube, and it's like an hour long, like how they fucked this thing up, like.
Well, a lot of it that I saw was just they were taking out like dialogue and like characters and funny stuff, and just adding all this other weird shit that was unnecessary, like some other romance or something like that. I haven't. I can't. I guess I'm being a little biased here because I haven't played.
No, I feel you. Yeah.
But it's. I I don't know. It just seems weird that these two are on this list. I mean, even I would even say, not that Doom Eternal wasn't great. No, I don't know. I would say Doom could probably stay up there.
Dude,
but
yeah, like those are the only, like, I'm with you. Those are the only two, and I hadn't played Remake, but those are the only two that it's like I could easily find two other games that came out this year that had way more importance.
Yeah. And if I'm looking at it objectively, Hades should win this.
I think so too. But
yeah, like,
dude, I don't know.
Animal Crossing is probably going to, but Hades should win this.
I think it's going to be The Last of Us, to be honest with you.
I don't because of how polarizing that game was to people. Because there was like it was people were furious about it, and like people were pissed that you played a different character through the end of the game.
People, dude.
It's like
people.
I get it. I'm just saying I don't
let's
think
put big people around that.
Sure,
dude. I played
whatever.
every one of these games except for Remake, and I can say, like, dude, Last of Us Part 2 is like, it's a moment, man. Like, in my opinion, like, take away like how you might feel about like what the game might be trying to say politically. Take away what you feel like, what justice they did to the characters in the game. To me, it's a huge stepping stone, especially on these, like, on the current gen or old gen now consoles.
Oh yeah, it's a technical achievement as well. I'm saying to take all that out of it, you have to look at it, I think, as, well, one, the people that are actually voting it for the Game of the Year awards. That's the first one, I guess. And the second one is sort of the idea of, like, I think because of the impact Animal Crossing had with the world as it was and how it brought so many people into games that maybe didn't play them at all, I think as far as a game of the year that everyone was somehow involved in, at least somewhat, it's that game. Yeah. Like, and I don't mean it like, and I don't personally think it's the best game of this year, but I think as far as the spread and what that game did for so many people, I feel like that's just going to take it. Like, and I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong.
Hades does deserve a shot, though, man, because that game, like, I haven't.
It's nominated in like every category.
I haven't beaten it or gotten as far into it as you have, but like the stuff I have played, the writing, the visuals, the gameplay itself. Nothing like it, man. Like it's like
dude,
those
it's
super
solid
giant
from top to bottom.
It's the super giant formula, like turned up to like 15. Yeah.
Well, it's a love letter to all their games and to just roguelikes as a genre. Like I mean, personally, that's, you know, my favorite type of game. So obviously, I'm gonna be a little biased towards it for that reason. But I think even if I take that part out of it, like as a game, it's phenomenal. Like it's just a fantastic. I don't know. To me, it's like the best game that came out this year. I think it's up there. Other than, I would say Tony Hawk's Remake is another one that I think should be nominated for Game of the Year as well. Because, I mean, I know it's redoing it. From that aspect, it's like, because if I'm comparing Tony Hawk, say, to like Ghost of Tsushima or whatever, how many fucking open world games we had, and how many of them done the exact same thing? And like,
how many
does the exact same shit? And then how many games have you seen a dead franchise get fully revitalized and do it as masterfully as you could possibly do it?
No, I agree.
In a genre that games don't even get made for anymore, really, and just to bring it out of the grave. And that's, to me, that's a Game of the Year material right there. Again, it's personal bias, but I can't look at Ghost and think that they've, you know.
Those first two Tony Hawk games are some of the most revered games critically as well. Like, you still look at like aggregates, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 or 3 is like considered one of the best games ever made. So, you know,
it's frustrating. And then again, for the whole point of the thing is like, and then Half-Life not being on there is like, I think by virtue of like, because it's such it takes a lot to get to play that game. I see somewhat of why it wouldn't be up there, but if we're awarding games properly, that is an amazing game that came out, and having now spent like a fair bit of time with it, I can vouch and say that it's like there is no other, especially in the VR space, there's nothing else like it. Like it,
Yeah.
and even as a game, speaking objectively of just video games, there's nothing else like it. Like just the way that everything just meshes together, and how much work you can tell was clearly put into this. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, I mean, at its core, it is a puzzle-based shooter, a horror game, more or less. But it is like, so much is being innovated on. Where again, if you're comparing like Ghost to other open world games, I can't think of anything in that game that stands out as like, oh, they really did this thing to like change the way that open world games are perceived. Not that you have to do that, but it's like, what did they do that like really refined it or really changed that, or like what was the thing that they
Half-Life
did there,
Alyx
other than
was
put
like
it in Japan?
Half-Life Alyx was like a moment too. Like, but
yeah,
I think part of it is maybe the install base hampers it a bit. Like maybe not enough.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's expensive to get to play it to begin with, and then in addition, you had like hardware being, with the pandemic being hard to get to anyway. So even if you could afford it, you couldn't really get a hold of the hardware to do it. I mean, I've been trying since then, and it's now, I don't know what, 9-10 months after that, and I just got a hold of it. So it's like, I can definitely see how but that's the other thing too, though, is like the Game of the Year awards has Yakuza Like a Dragon on it several different times, and I'm like, that's not fair. That game came out like a week ago. Like, who's had time to, like, I'm sure that game is amazing, it looks incredible,
yeah,
but like, what mass amount of people have had the time to get a hold of that to it's the same thing with Game of the Year every year, where it's like these games at the end of the list get the shortest stick, or it's either the ones at the very end and the very beginning that are get like the least amount of love. I think
the same thing happens with like Oscars and like other movie awards, where it's like typically,
I mean, it's all bullshit
what they call Oscar season is like the very end of the year, when all these like artsy films come out at you all at once. So it's like, what's on your mind? It's all strategic. Like, so I don't know, man.
It's a heap of bullshit though. Anyway, like the award stuff is all super dumb.
So hey, don't tune in to the Game Awards. When we do our Game of the Year,
it doesn't matter.
When we do our Game of the Year stuff, it's gonna be fucking cool, dude. We're gonna
we gotta start discussing that.
Yeah,
actually,
I got some ideas.
Okay. Yeah, that's because that's coming up.
That is coming. But yeah, I guess we'll take a quick one, and we'll come back and talk.
I have to piss like a can of bear spray, and that means hard and fast. A lot of pee real quick.
We'll be right back.
Bye, bitch. Welcome back, everybody.
Hello. Hi.
Guess what?
What?
Chicken butt, bitch. Goody goody.
Dude, oh my god, fuck. Every time, dude. Every time.
That's what I thought, man. You can't handle sugar free the pimp. You fool. Yeah, so I played some video games this week.
Oh yeah, what you
outside I snuck some in between Adam Sandler physical and mental abuse. I played some video games.
Do you wanna like maybe touch on a little bit more of that of your Adam Sandler experience before we get to some games?
There's not much more to say than I've been disrespected by a man I used to trust, and that in addition to that, I think his movies are all front for money laundering, and allegedly, and that I was talking with Austin about this, and I think that he brought up, he's like, I think he would make better sketch show than he would movies, because he just has all these bits. The whole movies are just bits for like an hour and a half straight, with no end in sight on most of them, and only when Adam Sandler or another cast member laughs at what just happened do you know that a joke happened. And I agree to some extent, because it would also cut my watch time down dramatically. But I also realize that that's not what makes the money. And if he's making hand over fist continually by putting out garbage, what incentive does he have? And the integrity is far gone. That's not coming back. So
But dude,
there's really no point.
the thing about Adam Sandler is that he will come out and do like some movie, like Rough Gems or whatever it's called, or Uncut Gems, or like
Yeah.
or like
yeah.
the other, was it Punch Drunk Love, and like he'll come out.
I'm talking just his comedies though.
Oh, yeah,
because
of
his other
course.
movies, those are fine. Punch
It's
Drunk
just-
was really good. I haven't seen Uncut, but I've heard it's really good.
It's just this weird dichotomy, like this extremely strange dichotomy that like you get that side of it, and then you get haha funny cross-dressing farting women and Jack and Jill and Al Pacino embarrassing himself.
Well, and maybe it's that is like these movies he's using to fund his good projects, but he has to sit through these garbage dumps that he's made to then make a good one, and maybe that's what funds it. And in that instance, sure, but I gotta imagine he's got other avenues of income coming to where he could just
Just stop.
could just stop doing
Just
that
stop.
and do something worthwhile.
Leave Happy Madison to the other has-been people. that
Here's
he's
the
friends
thing,
with.
and this is the credit I may give him, because this is a realization I came across last night too. Was like, not a real, because I've always noticed this. Like all the Adam Sandler movies that don't have Adam Sandler in it are way funnier. Like they don't focus on him. His two type of main character tropes aren't usually there, and the movies are just better as a result. The one thing I'll give him about the movies that are in him or with him are that almost all of them will include characters. Like all the side characters again are still great. Like the movies that don't have him in it are like fully about are really good, and most of these movies have really good side characters. Like in Jack and Jill, there was a bathroom attendant that had no spoken lines, but his facial stuff and his gestures and everything were fantastic. He was really funny. The two kids in that movie are both really good. And I will say that most of the side characters that aren't celebrities are people you've never seen before. So maybe in a way he's trying to give them a platform so people will see that they can do well around big actors or whatever. And if that's the case, I'll give him credit for that. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of them have, like I said, like in Grown Ups 2, David Spade's son, fantastic. He was hilarious. But again, the main, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to justify going through this catalog, and I'm trying my best to sort of come to things that he's maybe doing in the sidelines to see if there's some silver lining to these films.
I can't wait to see your
cursed.
I can't wait to see your 5-part video essay on the cultural impact of Adam Sandler movies. It's gonna be
I've been trying to think of a way to make a video about it, because having now gone through all these, I'm trying to sort of find a way to do something worthwhile with this time wasted. Yeah. I mean, Jack and I are enjoying it, so it's not wasted, but it's one of those things of like, I feel like I need to do something more with this because of how much time is in there. We're gearing up soon for a Geely watch, which is not an Adam Sandler movie, but that's a 3-hour movie that's just really bad, that I've seen already. But we're working up the confidence to watch that. But that's 3 hours of the F word, basically, and a sort of a documentary on Angelina Jolie, or not Angelina Jolie,
Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck's failing relationship is sort of what that movie is, and then a lot of weird sex scenes. So I can't wait for that one, but I'll have to sort of set aside a full day to experience that, because there's going to be quite a bit of pausing in that one, I think.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for you.
No, you're not. And no one should be. It's a mistake. It's a mistake to watch that. We did watch this other movie, Charlie Chan, though, which is like this really crazy series based on Hawaii Detective that's like an actual person. but it used to be a series, I guess. They had like 5 or so seasons of it, but then there's like several movies, and then there's like a Chinese adaptation of it. But it's about a Chinese detective, played by not he's never been played by a Chinese person as far as I can tell. Like it's always been, and it's that Tiptoes thing too, where you have a cast full of Asian folk and not the main character who is supposed to be Asian isn't. Whereas the same with like Tiptoes, where there's so many dwarves in it, but the main dwarf is played by a full standing person. But yeah, and that movie's bananas. Like I don't know if it's supposed to be a comedy or not. Like it's really hard to tell. But it's worth seeing. Like that might be one for the next land because it's really crazy. Although, well, I have some news about that. But anyway, video games though. That's why we're here, right? Video games, not
Hell
for
yeah.
the Sandler update.
Played some Hades, did you? We talked about this a little bit earlier.
I played a fair bit, yeah. So that was sort of the big thing is my index showed up. However, a friend of the show, Austin, has purchased me Hades out of the blue, and the day before my index came, and I have since put 20-some hours into this game, which I believe was last... What day did that show up? Saturday or Sunday? Sunday. It showed up Sunday. So from Saturday till Thursday, 20 hours of Hades. And I hadn't played the 1.0 release. I played about 50 hours of this game on the Epic Store before the actual release came out. And I think I think I missed maybe the last 2 patches, I think, of content before the 1.0. Because I didn't realize this game has been developed for like 2 years now, it seems like. I think it was like 2018 or something when it came. And I'd honestly been on the fence of like picking up the Steam version just because I like having everything on Steam. And yeah, so by the grace of God, it just showed up. And fuck, man, this is a great video game. It's still an incredible game, and the amount of stuff added to it, I really didn't even realize I wanted. But now that it's there, it's like just a welcome addition. Yeah, because I also had never finished the game either. I'd never made it to Hades when I was playing the 50 or so beforehand. So I don't know if that was like based on tweaks. So he may not have even been there. I can't even really remember. But yeah, finished through it I think twice now, and then I'm working on what happens at the end is once you beat Hades, you unlock this. I can't think of the name they use for them. It's like burning runs or something like that. But they have these modifiers to where it'll be like all enemies move 20% faster and do 20% more damage, or you have 20% health, or all healing things you pick up are 25% less effective. And you can stack those too, where it's like all healing items don't do anything. It's like 100% ineffective. I'm tempted to turn all of them on and just see what that looks like, because I'm sure it's insane. Because there's like no less than 20 some modifiers. It's like I think there's like 30 different ones that you could put on, all with tiers to them. And then that unlocks a different thing. I won't spoil any of the story stuff because since it technically just came out this year and somewhat recently. But there is some story-based portion to that of rerunning the game over and over again, even after you've finished the what you've set out to do in the beginning, I guess, so to speak. I'm trying to tiptoe around that a little bit, but yeah, it's phenomenal. The runs continue to be fun and varied up. The amount of cosmetic stuff that you can do to your base or home base is really surprising. The addition of fishing, which I'd forgotten was in there, is also. I wish there was like a bit more fishing spots, but that stuff's really cool because it'll give you more of the like. The alcohol stuff to give as gifts or gems or whatever to do all that. And then there's also 2 pages of that book that all say undiscovered on it still, that I have no idea what that is, that I haven't seen yet, which is kind of alarming too, considering how much time I spent with this game, and I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I know that there's like some beaten path NPCs that you'd probably never see unless you do a certain route. Like some weird.
So I did. Like I have found all of those. Okay. I have talked to because there's also these like pseudo achievement things that give you currency in the game as well, where it's like talk to every god or pick every modifier from one type of god, stuff like that. So I've done a few of those, and then there is one to talk to every person. There's one nameless guy, then there's like death, and then a few other ones. There's also like sub bosses that show up randomly, those kind of things. I think I just got the thing for running into all of them. But yeah, there, like I said, there's like 2 pages of stuff. I just don't know what it is that I still have somehow not seen. And maybe that unlocks farther in after that, because even after you finish the game, Hades still comes up. Like, there's still scenes where he'll just pop his face up and be like, "Ah, you foolish," and still talking to you as if like with new stuff to say, and same with every NPC you talk to and stuff. So the game,
yeah, that was the surprising part to me, is that like no matter how many runs I've done of the game, like I've never heard the same line twice, and that's like very impressive to me.
yeah. Well, and I think it's because I think it helps that they're giving out the dialogue and story between all these characters so piecemeal, Mm-hmm. It's like you're not sitting there having long dialogue with anyone. It's all very quick but to the point information or just, side banter with these characters. So that's very cool. I will say having found the last weapon that wasn't in there either, the gloves, which I was talking to you a little bit off camera, but man, the gloves are the best weapon in this game, hands down. Like, I have not found a weapon that I have had as much fun with. I think they're all really good, but if I were to tier them out, yeah, the fists are just, man, they are extreme. And maybe it just suits my playstyle better or whatever. But damn, that's a good set of weapons. I also didn't realize this either, but after you've, I don't know when this happens, but I guess maybe it's once you find that first blood thing, but you can go to the weapons and then you can modify the weapons too to change them to different weapons. So it's like there's this set of gloves, then this set of gloves whenever you do your special will draw in and magnetize enemies towards you and also do increased damage. There's like 4 variants of each weapon under that weapon, which I didn't know existed. I just happened to accidentally hit the bumper twice on the weapon I was picking up, and then this whole other menu came up of like, here's all these modifiers to the weapons, and I was like, well, what the fuck is this? So there's that as well. Yeah, it's so well polished from the sound design, the voice acting, as Supergiant always does, is just incredible. The art direction is gorgeous. It feels incredibly tight no matter what's happening. It's another game where you never feel really robbed from what's happening. It's just you either made a mistake or just you didn't prioritize the run the right way or something. But God, yeah. And I'm excited to see what else they add to it, because I don't think they're done with it either. It doesn't seem like so.
Well, I think they came out and said it's their best-selling game yet, right? Like. Maybe.
Oh, I would have to imagine, yeah, easily. Yeah. It's their most accessible game to date, I think, as well. Like, Bastion was really good in that same fashion. Transistor a little less so, and Pyre even less than that. But especially with the way roguelikes have taken off over the last couple of years, I think it's easily the most, like, accessible one. It's just gorgeous. Like, everything about you look at it and you go, I'd play that. That looks, just the art style is captivating already. And then when you see it played, it's just super fluid. Yeah, everything about this game from the top to the bottom is awesome. It's a great game. I hope it wins Game of the Year, because it's really good.
I agree. I think of all the games in that Game of the Year, it has the most artistic, like, kind of integrity to it. As far as, like, it just feels very whole. Like, even The Last of Us has stumbles, but this game just feels like very mastercrafted from like start to finish.
Well, and that's what I'm saying too, is like, even when I played the game feeling like it was complete, like I was just saying with the weapons, I found just another thing that came up. Like, it was another thing. I was like, oh, I thought this was the whole game, and then here's just another deal that just happens to be a part of the game. And yeah, it's miraculous how much content is in this game. As I put it, actually, speaking of the next game, which will be Half-Life Alyx, but that's what I was speaking of. That is like, spent over $1,000 to play Half-Life Alyx, more or less, and Hades has captivated my time. So in my mind, it's $1,000 game, easy. So Yeah.
let's kind of get into it. So this is like the big premiere VR game that everybody was kind of waiting on. So
Yeah, and I definitely am not finished with it. I think I'm let me look. I want to say it's about a 12 to 15ish hour game, so I've got about another at minimum 6 hours left, maybe closer to 10 depending upon the actual runtime of the whole thing. Oh man, it's just it's so many small details that have been like in some VR to some extent, but really put together just makes just such an incredible like package of a game. It I don't even know really where to begin. I guess you could start with the gloves. Like the gloves are the main way that you're interacting with the world more or less.
mm-hmm.
And just the ability to pick, items off the ground and fling them to your hand, or pull ammo off of enemies, and just to generally interact with the world is like really dense. Like some of it's not there, but a lot of it is like really interactable, like moving boxes and moving stuff around. And the other thing they do that a lot of VR games don't do is like your hands are physically in the space, so you can just wave your hand at a box and knock it out of the way, or move it over, or slap a grenade or do some other thing. You can like pick up every body, and they do a thing with like heavier objects. Like it's better if you pick it up with two hands because you can't really move it with just one hand. So that comes into play with some puzzle stuff and some other things. And then like your gun is a physical object as well, so it's not like clipping through the environment and doing all this other stuff. So you can just like I found a lot of times like I'll like lightly pry a door open and then just kind of open it with the gun, you know what I mean? Just because it feels kind of fun to do it. And then the process of like you can put things in your backpack by just putting it over your shoulder, but you can do it like under your arm or like over each shoulder, behind your, like every way that you can, just as long as your hand ends up somewhere behind you, whatever you just dropped in your bag goes in there. And that's like another small like thing where it's just like however you want to manipulate that, it just lets you kind of do it. And then you get into like the general Half-Life vibe to it, because it's more of a horror game than it is. I wouldn't even call it that. Like I have not found myself to be afraid at any point, but there is this overarching tension, and there's a few like dark areas you're going through, and it's creepy maybe more than it is scary. But some people have mentioned it being terrifying to them or whatever. I'm not one to get too. If anything, games will do it more than movies ever do. Like movies don't really do anything for me. Horror games kind of will get me, but I haven't felt any of that yet. It's been. I think it may also be by virtue of it. I'm having so much fun going through it that I also just don't care. Like I'm just like, yeah, let's just keep going. And that's another thing too. Is like there's like certain like I've picked up a frying pan, and then I found like 3 or 4 ammo things, and I just put it in the frying pan and was just like tossing it up as I was walking down the hallway with my pistol and just like pretending to cook ammo in a pot, because you could there was no need to do it, but you could just do it. Like I heard a noise, so I pick up a frying pan and just started walking down the hallway, and as soon as I saw the thing, just threw it at him or whatever. And the enemies vary up. Or go ahead.
There's just plenty of room to be a dumbass. Like the beginning of the game opens you up to a whiteboard, and you can just like draw whatever you want. When I first played this game, I probably sat there drawing stuff for like 30 minutes, just goofing with it.
When because it came out during the quarantine, I guess, or right before it. There was a school teacher that was teaching his students on that whiteboard. Like he was live streaming to their house in that, doing it on there, which I thought was amazing. Like
that's cool.
But the fact that you could, and honestly, writing on that whiteboard feels really good. Like it like has a nice tension when you get the pen there. It feels like it feels right, I guess. It's just all these, like I said, it's a lot of like really small touches of stuff that really add up to be like, the puzzles are all pretty decent. I mean, a lot of them come down to just like working this like 3D sphere or connecting wires and stuff in the wall, but that's all pretty fun. There's a level later on in like a hotel where you're doing that. But like as you're connecting these power outlets, you can see out of your peripherals and behind you like lights turning on in different areas that when you're tampering with it, which is just again a very subtle but helpful touch to sort of bring it all together. And again, playing it on the hardware it was intended to be played on is also like makes a huge difference. I think. Actually that's one thing I should mention too. I didn't even realize this until like later on. But because of the enemies with the head crabs on them, since they don't have any sight, they can only hear you. You can actually put your hand over your mouth and make yourself quiet, like so you can muffle your breathing.
No way, really?
Yes, and you can also distract them with throwing bottles and other stuff. You know, like a stealth game or whatever. Actually, if to the right there that he was just looking at, there's a gas mask on there, and you can just put that on. And that's what I just wore a gas mask so I didn't have to cover my mouth or whatever. But it never mentions any of this stuff. Like, it's just something that, again, it's like, I don't know, I saw a gas mask. Maybe I put it on, and then I did, and it just stayed on and worked. It was like, okay, I could do that then.
I know you can put the hard hat on, just being an idiot.
Yeah.
But
yeah. It just whatever you know, it opens that weird... For how serious the nature of the game is, it also just lets you have that freedom of doing whatever. This, too, again, just that picking up ammo and stuff from a distance and grabbing it into your hand feels good. Tossing items between your hands feel really good. I was in a bar at one point. I was throwing up beer bottles and then just shooting them with the gun, and that was, you know, just for the fuck of it, because it was like, can I do this?
Mm-hmm. There's one complaint I heard is that the physical objects...
No crowbar.
Yeah, and no physical objects. Like that pipe you just get. I tried this myself, too. It does nothing to the enemies if you try to hit them with it. Like...
Yeah, and that's a fair complaint, I think, for what is going on here. I would say it's never like hindered my gameplay, because they don't really give you a lot of like physical objects that would do anything realistically. Like, it's not like... I mean, the environment's not like scattered with like lead pipes and you know, the thing is like a beer bottle and maybe a crate or something. So it's not really like they're actually you're seeing it here really is like not being able to break this. You have to actually physically move it with your hands or whatever. And that's a fair criticism, I think. I was going to say, what was another point there's something else I had thought of. Hand tracking, that stuff. That's
I was gonna ask how that stuff kind of performs.
It's great. It takes a while, and this is just by virtue of the controllers being what they are. It takes a little bit for your brain to really register that you don't have to hold a controller. Like it takes a bit, because you're really... Every time you're picking up or letting go of an item, you really are letting go of the thing. But it's obviously always in your hand at the same exact position. That's maybe one thing to the design credit of them is like, the controller doesn't like move around your hand at all. Like even letting go or whatever, it's still always in the same spot. So you never feel like you're like grasping to get repositioned or back on the stick or whatever. It's like it's always right there. So I have to give them credit for that design of that. It's just... It is really, and obviously people have talked about this for a while because it's been out for a long time, but it is one of those things where I can really confirm what people have said a million times is like, this is really the way that you should be experiencing these games, and I totally agree. Like, even in other games like Until You Fall or Boneworks and stuff, like, it's really crazy how the thing feels like you're holding a sword and feels like you're holding a gun both. Like, it's really strange that it feels... like any item you're picking up, or like when you're holding up a phone, for whatever reason, it feels like that. It kind of looks like an old hand rotary phone anyway. So I guess that one makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, most things just seem to feel right. And then the finger stuff doesn't so much come into this game as much as you would really want. I mean, obviously you can do all the finger movements, which is just fun in general. But it's not like, okay, so that, like what he just did, which is what I was playing earlier, is like just being able to put your hand in front of the locker and just move it open. The only thing I really want out of this game is if it could track my feet so I could just kick objects out of the way. Like that would be
yeah.
the only thing that would make this whole thing really come together even more is just that, because there's sometimes it's like having to bend down to pick up a box every time where I could just kick it out normally, or in if I was actually there, I would just like, I'll just scoot to the side with my foot or whatever. That's the next big thing I think really for this kind of technology. But yeah, it's just exceptional. Like, I don't know. It's and it comes down to like, we've talked about it before, but VR is extremely subjective, and there's like no way to describe this, or no video is going, because this, it just looks like a first person shooter with a really strange head camera where it's like, but it's completely flat or whatever. VR is so hard to like, to get to explain it, or to have anyone realize it without actually jumping into it and doing it. And I think that's, again, I think it's twofold, right? It's that, and then the fact that when VR first started becoming a thing, it was super finicky and really gimmicky. It was like all on phones, and you had these weird cardboard things, and it's like not even really a representation of what VR actually is. It was just kind of an introduction to the idea. And then and you can do it in all the headsets really at this point, but with this like setup arrangement of this thing, like it all, like the hardware itself especially, it all feels like really well thought out and put together in a way that like that just meshes to make the experience overall really exceptional. And now even more, and this is not necessarily about Half-Life anymore, but I guess the port of it is like, to the criticisms I've had on the Oculus platform, they've now been reinforced like tenfold, because it's like, man, with the tracking, and then the refresh rate, and then the fidelity of the whole thing, and then the controllers themselves, and like all of this stuff, having Oculus like demand that it has all these exclusives that are like, one, graphically being down throttled to work on that hardware or whatever, and then not getting like the full scope of the control possibility because of like not having the tracking and all this other stuff. It's like, it's really more frustrating, because you're sort of like, it's like if you had an artist, but you're like, hey, you can only use this paintbrush and that's it. And he's like, fuck, I have a way better idea if I could just use like a slightly smaller one, or this thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And it feels like Oculus and I would say Facebook at this point, because Oculus sort of doesn't exist. It's like that they're really trying to stifle the industry while trying to push it forward. It's really strange, but they're like doing this thing where they're propelling it forward, but only by taking it several steps back for some reason, which I just don't understand. Because if if there was more experiences like this one, and like, I think my other one, Until You Fall, has like probably been my other like favorite game I've played in VR so far, which is like it's a roguelike, I guess pseudo hack and slash, but sort of like I wouldn't call it rhythm either, but it's more of like it's a game where you're fighting NPCs or whatever. But those two games like alone have been like enough to be like, yeah, this is worth this. And obviously everyone's dollar will vary, and the mileage on it will vary of what you think is worth whatever. Mm-hmm. But having went from, again, like a $300 price point to this one at $1,000, which is way more than I ever wanted to really spend on this type of stuff. It's like the experience that you get is it's so insanely different. Like again, I couldn't even really play the Oculus for more than like 30 minutes, and I've easily spent like 6-hour sessions in this thing, and it's not been like, I've gotten a little hot, and there's some times where I'm like starting to get a little bit of that motion sickness stuff or whatever, but it's like, I'm sure part of that is like, one, I'm getting more comfortable being in there, but two, just the hardware itself, and the being able to adjust IPD and refresh rate and everything else or whatever. Like, I think that's, again, it's still, it goes back to, I guess, to the other point is like, not every headset is going to work for every person already. So to further then go, well, if this doesn't work for you, then you just don't get to play the games. And it's, no other console is like that. That, I guess the other criticism is, it's like, every console's like, do you own a TV and do you have a PlayStation? Well, you can play all the PlayStation games. It's like, do you have this and this? You can do all that. But it's like, but I get that it's the Quest is more of a console, but it is that frustration of like, not everyone has the accessibility to use this hardware. And again, the infancy and everything else and the Facebook requirements, all that other shit. But again, just looking at the hardware objectively, it's like, this thing doesn't work for everyone, and now you can't all use it. And it's just
I think that comes back to like what I said, that like if Valve were to corner the market with like an affordable variant of this, with like with a little bit of sacrifice to the visuals of it, but just at least something to get this experience in front of people.
Yeah, I think if they could put out a 90 hertz headset with inside out tracking and the knuckles with it, they would be on to something. I still think that would probably come in at around like $500 to $600 for something like that.
Yeah.
But I think if they could make that happen, they'd be in for something. And also if they could get a working wireless adapter to fit into the frunk of this thing, that's another big one, because that's that's the most annoying and main complaint I see from everyone is like, I don't like fucking wires. And they make it sound like putting these base stations up is like working 13 hours at a construction site and with no break. And it's like, dude, it takes 5 minutes. Like I literally put them on the tripod in the corners and plugged them in, and they were immediately recognized. And then you don't even have they update wirelessly. I didn't even have to do the firmware with anything. It was just plugged in, and it's like, do you need to update the firmware? I was like, I do, and it's like, okay. And it was like 30 seconds. Like the whole process of setting this thing up, maybe 10 minutes, and that's with updating everything. So it's like, I can understand the spatial limitation for sure, because I definitely didn't have it until we lived in this place either. So that's another thing. Like I totally get that part of it. But like the cable thing, not been an issue even a little bit. So I don't know. People are just ridiculous, I guess. Not ridiculous, but everyone's got their preference. I actually equated it to like people being like, yeah, Bluetooth headphones are the best. And I'm like, there's really good Bluetooth headphones out there. But if you listen to wired headphones through an amp, it's a fucking different day when you're listening to music. Like it is a completely different experience.
Yeah, 100%. I think getting fully wireless is the next big step for PC VR, but it's going to take a minute.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a very long time to get there.
I don't know. I mean, because honestly, Quest is already there. So it really just takes them getting... And again, this thing has like a USB 3.0 on the front of it because behind the cover, there's just a port there with like a slot that is designed for mods or whatever people want to make. So if they could put an adapter, what they'll probably have to do is put an adapter that goes in there, a wire that goes over the top to a battery pack that would rest on the back of that thing, so it'll make it a little bit heavier. But then that's it. I mean, because again, the Vive one already works pretty well. It's just expensive. It's like $350.
Well, but my thing is all the hardware's in the headset. The issue is that like getting the video signal wirelessly to where it's comfortable and in a decent quality, I think, to the headset from a PC would be fairly difficult. I think the mobile hardware, they would have to build a custom PC in a headset itself with like decent mobile hardware to get there, like a Quest. But then you start running into the issues with the Quest where it's like very front heavy and like maybe it's like not the best form of quality or tracking. Because standalone in the Quest it's totally fine, but I just don't know how we get to getting a PC's.
No. I mean, the Quest 2, if you use virtual desktop, it'll run at 90 hertz wirelessly. But you don't need the link.
But there's like plenty of like, and I did some of that, or I tried to, but like there's still this like choppiness to it. There's almost like this like delay to it. Like I would never play anything rhythmic on it.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Like that kind of thing. So, but that's where I think it needs to go. But Half-Life,
I guess what Well, and that's the thing, I guess, about the difference is that's like it's doing all that through just a router. Like if you could just have a dongle that goes into the machine and then one that goes to your actual headset, you could maybe alleviate all of that. Because that's just like that's the issue is it's also running through whatever router you have, which especially if you're using like the ones that the company, like AT&T or Spectrum or whatever give you, they're pretty shit. So if you have a really nice one, I mean, I think we're there. It just needs some little push or so. I don't know exactly what needs to be done, I guess, on that front at this point. But also too, like if you just hook those, like you can get tethers that go to the ceiling for like $20 and they hold the cable and then you're also fine. Like it's not, you just, you can't do the 360 movement or whatever, which is nice to do, I guess. But I haven't really found any game that makes that necessary. Maybe boneworks would be nice, or whatever that Population 1 is, but I haven't played that yet, so I don't really know.
Well, I guess while we're here, do you want to just roll into Boneworks real quick?
Yeah, I'll just talk about it pretty briefly because I mean it's another game that's been out for a long time and sort of a showpiece for VR or its possibilities. And I haven't played a shit ton of this because I've really been trying to go through alyx like because I've been enjoying it so much. But yeah, the physics in this game and just like the interactions with the world and stuff, like it didn't really click until like the tutorial stuff didn't really click as like super interesting until I got to, they have these like target dummies, but it has this deal where you can like fling swords into someone and then pull it back to your hand, and then like you can put a sword through someone and then pull your other hand and just like pull it out, sort of like how Walking Dead kind of does it. Saints and Sinners a little bit, but more which is just like a little bit more realistic approach to all of it, I guess, to some extent. And then it's a small thing, but like being able to see your whole arm, not just like your hand, also adds a lot to it. It's really, I don't know, it's like again another small thing, but it's something that really like adds to the overall experience. And then yeah, and some of the like most of the weapons and stuff have a pretty good weight to them, and they feel pretty nice to use. I haven't got to do much of the campaign because the first like 3 hours I'm still like tutorializing through a lot of it, because some of it too is just fucking around in there because they give you like some playground-esque kind of things while you're going through it. And they have this, which is cool, which is kind of like a museum of VR up to this point to sort of show what can be done. But the puzzles and stuff seem really neat. I want to give it some more time. I haven't said enough with it to really like have a huge opinion yet. But from what I've seen with it so far, it seems really rad. Like it seems like they went above and beyond to sort of show, because I think that was the initial pitch, is like this isn't really a game. It's more or less like to show developers and stuff like, hey, here's what you can do with VR if you want to do it. Rather than like like, hey, this is like a end all be all experience or whatever.
It's like
but I've heard the campaign's really good
of all that stuff.
Yeah. And then being able to grip like stuff pretty much anywhere, move your hands around it is really fun. The button presses and things work really well. They have this system of like buying stuff with ammo that you can use for like the arena stuff, and then those arenas are kind of like their own little playground modifiable thing as well. And then I like I said, I need to play more of it before I can really speak on it too much. But
you could always come back to it. Probably next week you'll have some time on it.
Yeah, I think it's really neat though. I heard
it kind of goes some places story wise.
It kind of seems like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it feels that way because especially like the wireframed things you're fighting in the beginning, at least, seem like there's some kind of brainless drone, I guess, that's activated, similar to like how you are, and I guess Super Hot, and to some extent, like you're that I think it feels similar to that, but I haven't played enough of it to really have an idea of any of that stuff just yet. But yeah. It's real neat. I'm excited to get to more of it.
So
the guns too. The guns feel really good. Like it's one of the few first games I played where like actually pulling a stock up and like looking through the sight worked like really well, like as intended. And having to manually reload all the parts of the gun properly, that feels really cool to do as well. I guess I'll say too, Saints and Sinners is also really good. We don't have to go too much into that because if you're into VR, you've probably heard or seen some of it. That game's another really good, solid showing for VR. I do find that game incredibly dark though. Like I've turned the brightness up on the headset and in the game, and it's still like fucking insanely dark at times. Which is weird too, because that's one of the main criticisms people have had about the Index is just like, oh, the black levels aren't black, and I'm like, it's fucking black. You can't see shit in there. But yeah, I like that game quite a bit, and I'm excited to finish it too. Oh, that was really weird too. It actually happened with Until You Fall as well, because I picked up the Steam version of it. But I had both those games on Oculus, and or the Oculus Store, which is the only two games I bought on there, which I wish I wouldn't have. But my save for both of those transferred to the Steam version. Okay. Which I guess what it did is it saved in your directories folder on the PC, like you're saved, which I never even thought of. It never crossed my mind, but I thought it was really weird for loading up Saints and Sinners in Steam, and I was like, oh yeah, I gotta go through all this again. And I was like, hey, you want to continue? I'm like, this is just my save. Really weird, because you don't even have the same game save between the Rift version and the Quest version of the game. So I thought it was buck wild that the Steam and the Link version had the same save.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
Which was bizarre. I totally see why that happened now, but at first it was really jarring. I was like, what the fuck is this? How did this happen? But yeah, anywho. And then I played the Forest VR for a little bit, which is really strange. Like it's there. But you can definitely tell their intention initially was not to make a VR game.
Yeah.
Cause like when you skin a creature or something, the camera pulls out and you're like, it goes from first person to third person as you're watching yourself skin this thing, and then the camera zooms back into your head, which is fucking really jarring. But it does seem like it's that full game, just like really kind of strangely implemented, but it works, I guess. I kind of want to give some more time to it because I really liked the Forest in general.
I bet the cannibal things are kind of freaky, especially the homunculus that you fight and all that.
Oh yeah, dude, I bet they're super strange. It seems like they're toned down a little bit for this version too, though, I think. But it is still like a beta version of it. I don't know if they're going to keep working on it because they've announced a sequel to Forest already. So I don't know if what they're going to do there, but it's pretty neat. And then Until You Fall, which I think I mentioned a few weeks ago when we got the Quest, but yeah, that game's incredible. It's like the best workout I've found in VR so far, because it's a lot of like dodging, and then it's a lot of like lunges and squats basically when you're dodging things, and then the actual like arm movements of having to swipe your sword at these enemies. And it's also a roguelike as well, so you're like picking up different modifiers as you go through each room set of enemies. And it's super responsive, and blocking enemies' attacks in these like nice sections is really good. Also, one of the few games in VR where the weapons really have like a good weight to them and they feel right, and then actually like hitting your own weapons together does something. Like I find myself continually, like before I fight an enemy, just like scraping the blades together to just be like, all right, dude, come and bring it, or some shit. Like just this.
Goofing.
It has that good presence of like, all right, buddy, I'm right here. Let's do this thing. Like it's super good. It's a very cool game. It's like I'm loving Alyx, but as far as like a game goes, and especially if you're looking for something to actually work out with, fuck man, that game's awesome. And yeah, it's the first game that's made me sweat either in VR as well. It was one where I was like really like fuck, and just
that was definitely
cool.
definitely Beat Saber for me.
See, that one hasn't got me, but I also haven't like tried a lot of the harder difficulties either. I've been like working through the campaign.
Yeah. I think that's
actually I will say to that end, like the tracking on this, which obviously is better than the Inside Out. But there was like 3 campaign missions on Beat Saber when I was playing on the Quest I couldn't finish, and I did all of them first try on this thing. And so I don't know if that's all hardware related or if it's just because I took some time away from it or whatever. But I am by no means good at Beat Saber, and for whatever reason, that was just like, I don't know. It's something to note, I guess. I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but
yeah, for sure.
Anywho, I talked for 500 minutes, so what you got?
Dude, I just you know what I got. I talked about it earlier.
Well, I know what you got, but tell the nice folks at home what you got.
So honestly, it took a while for Valhalla to like really grip me, right?
Sure.
I actually really kind of struggled to get into it for the first few hours. And it sucks to have to say like, oh, you know, give a game like 2.5 fucking hours and it's going to like be good or whatever. But it wasn't until like
this one you got to give like, 4 or 5 is
it
my
wasn't
guess
until
on this
like
one.
4, like all this area that they're showing right now in the footage that I have pulled up. This is all just like the kind of beginner area. And this is like all almost optional stuff that you can explore. Like if you mainlined the main quests in this area, you'd probably get through it pretty damn quick. But
yeah,
it's after that, it's when like your home base opens up and the world map opens and it's like, hey, you know, we're in England now. We need to start like making alliances with these other clans and these other kingdoms. Can you like, you know, you go out and you talk to these leaders with your brother in arms, I guess, Sigmund, and there's like a lot of really cool like side characters that you come across. The voice acting in this game is like very hit or miss. The main character, Eivor, is like pretty good. I like him. And like a lot of the like other main characters that you meet in the beginning are pretty good, like King Harold and some of the other characters. But you get to like I forget the names of these guys. I think Vala's one of them, I think, but he's like, he introduces you as the game introduces you to him, and he's like this kind of like sadist, like he's kind of like a weirdo torturing like dudes that betrayed him and stuff. But like you're supposed to make an alliance with this guy, but it's like, oh well, times were brutal back then. But the game doesn't really do a good job of like really expressing the brutality of like the Viking Age. And I'll get into that in a bit. But like, yeah, the voice acting is like very hit or miss. I like a lot of the side story content. A lot of it's very goofy. Like, surprisingly, a lot of the side content's like pretty fucking wacky. There's like segments where you'll like trip on magic mushrooms and you'll like go through these like spirit quests.
It's an Ubisoft game.
It's you know,
it's that Far Cry formula.
It does have this interesting thing, like Odyssey, I guess. Like I didn't really play much of it, but Odyssey eventually crosses this line where it goes from like trying to be like a realistic interpretation of like ancient Rome and then crosses over into mysticism.
It goes off the fucking rails. Like between you and the story stuff. I mean, at some point you go to fucking Atlantis. Yeah. So it's like it like they go crazy, and then again, like I said, with the character itself, you get all these superpowers effectively, which is again, it's fine, but it is really like all over the place. But to the extent of the side characters and voice acting stuff, that's been an issue in pretty much every Ubisoft game, but especially Assassin's Creed by the virtue of how many people you end up interacting with. Yeah. Like it's always been, I mean, in the last one in Odyssey, like only the female protagonist was like a good voice actor. And in addition to that, like the villain was set up to be the other guy pretty much entirely, but they would like didn't want to commit to that. But when you play it that way with him as the villain and her as the main character, it's like there's no other way to play that game.
Yeah.
Because when you do it the reverse, it's like, no, this doesn't make any sense, and that guy doesn't make any sense either.
Well, maybe they were a little bit more confident in this game because from the outset, when you start the game, it tells you like, hey, do you want to play as male or female Ivor, or do you want the game to choose for you during like critical moments in the story? So you can play optionally where it'll flip between the main characters. So, and I think it's a cool idea. So you can like see like how both actors portray the character. So you're not like stuck playing one of them and you'd never see what the other one does. But I just went with the male Ivor because I just liked his voice and everything that I've seen. And like I don't know. I just like this interpretation of the character myself.
Well, that was the thing I wondered about that, because I saw that option when I kind of skimmed over it and then thought about later like what I actually just saw it say. I was like, before I was like, oh, I was like male or female. I was like, oh, well, I heard the male voice actor and this one is much better, so I'm just going to go for that. But then I realized I was like, oh, yeah, it said you had the option to be either of them based on like decisions or something like that, or it's like how you're... Something dictates when it changes to
I'll
what
say
or
this,
something,
and
but I don't know how that works.
I think when you're outside the Animus, there's moments, because a plot thread is that like the DNA of this Viking is like strangely intertwined. So like,
yeah, there's like 2 data streams or something they say that's coming through.
So I think it's like when you get out of the Animus and back in, it's at those points where it uses the other data streams. That's what makes sense to me. But yeah, like outside of all that, I actually really like the exploration in the game. I actually have like full range, not all of them, but I have like the full ranged set on my left and the melee abilities on the right. There's still plenty for me to find, but I at least have those bars or those like slots taken up so I can use all of those abilities. And once you have those abilities in combat, it gets a lot more interesting. Like when you first start, it's like light, light, heavy, heavy, light, and like dodge occasionally. But like once you get those additional things, it's pretty cool. One of the abilities I really like is like the scorpion, like kind of like dagger rope toss, and you pull them like in different directions, and you can throw like the rope with the dagger on it, it'll stab them, and you can like toss them into other enemies, and like that'll do some critical damage. Really interesting combat ideas in it. You can also like with the ranged abilities like set a trap. There's one ranged ability where like,
oh yeah, I did just get that one. That was like the most recent one I got. It was like a fire trap or something.
And then you'll get one where you put like six arrows on the end of your finger, and you pull, and it'll go into like the slow-mo thing where you like target enemies and it'll home into them.
Yeah, it becomes Panzer Dragoon.
It's cool shit. Like honestly,
I'm not saying it's not, but again, you're like, oh yeah, I remember when Vikings could knock 6 arrows and have them hone it. You know what I mean? It's that thing of these games where you're like, it's the same thing with every Ubisoft game, is like where they're never like confident enough in their narrative stuff to like commit to anything, and then world-wise or design philosophy, they're never quite confident enough to commit to like either make it really strange or do this or go, but it's always like this in between least offensive route for everybody. And I just wish they would commit to shit and make them more, I don't know, something else. Like I want to play some more of this game, at least before my trial thing is over. Yeah. Because I don't dislike any of the Assassin's Creed games really. I played practically all of them. But it is just that thing of just I don't know. Just commit.
Well, that's my biggest criticism is like you come across a couple characters and you're like, damn, this seems like it might be like, because I know in Assassin's Creed games in history, there's been like, oh, now you're talking to Caesar. Now you're talking to like Da Vinci. You're actually talking to these George Washington. Like you're actually talking and interacting with these characters. So like I'm Googling some of the names here, and it's like they're based on real characters in like the Viking era. But
Yeah.
I start reading about like the Viking era, and I'm like, okay, how does this game compare to like what life was actually like then? It doesn't get into like the real like brutality and grit and like absolute almost savage nature in some ways. That like, you know, the pillaging in this game is you raid an area, soldiers come out of every fucking building, and you kill all the soldiers, you loot all the chests, and then you're like, yep, raid over.
Yeah.
Not
well,
that
the rating in this game is like, hey, fuck Christians. It's like pretty much what it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of monasteries, but like you don't kill the priests, and the game even tells you like if you accidentally kill like civilians, it'll like deactivate the animus. So like it's like,
yeah,
dude, they weren't just saving the people they saved, they enslaved. They don't do that in this. But the other thing is that like, or the people that they spared, rather, not saved. But the other thing is that just like, yeah, you weren't just killing soldiers back then. You were fucking wiping out the whole population and replacing them with your own. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Is like Ubisoft's design is like they want to tackle all these like interesting and gritty subjects while not offending anyone, and then never actually doing it. Like Far Cry 5, that could have been one of the most interesting stories in a game for a long time. They had this fucking culty ass priest, you know, teaching all these like rednecks to follow his cult, and then they are influenced by drugs and the Holy Father and all this other stuff, and it amounts to fucking nothing. And like they barely even go anywhere near that. And you're like, man, why even start these things if you have nothing to say or make it interesting about them? Like, it's like, you know, it's like, I don't know. It's like not everything needs to be this like overall brutal thing, but it's like, yeah, if you've decided to go into Vikings, fucking they're wild. Let them be wild. Like, let's be wild. Like, if you're going to talk about a priest that is a cult leader, make me really want to fuck that dude up. Like, if that's like the main villain and all the things he's doing are horrendous, give me that like put the emotion in there. Like, stop doing this like tiptoe thing.
Yeah.
Did you do this?
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a sec. Okay. I was just queuing it up, but yeah, that's my exact criticism. That's really it. Is just like the gameplay, the characters, the story they're telling, like all of that. I like it, but like it does feel like it's just not crossing enough of a line to really make a statement. Like, say what you want about the Call of Duty games. Like, I've never been a huge fan of the Call of Duty games, but at least in the campaigns that I've played, they do try to go out of their way to highlight atrocity and also to like humanize it in a way, but also make military and warfare like very like harrowing is like a good way to put it.
Well, dude, that not Cold War, but the one right before that, Modern Warfare, I guess. There's like a night mission where you're infiltrating like a 3-story house with like there's just like a family that happens to be involved with terrorists, and you're hearing like a baby crying and seeing like the wives shuffle, and it's all through this like night vision thing. It's like one of the most visceral things I've ever done in a video game. Like, it felt so like I felt terrible. Like, as I was going through this, even though it was my duty, it was my call to duty to do this, it was like the set dressing, the lighting, just everything about it was like, because it was like dead silent until it wasn't, and then there was people screaming and there was gunshots and bodies dropping, and it was like, and then it would go completely silent again, and you'd hear like people shuffling up above and like a baby crying in the crib or whatever, and it was fucking like, yeah, man, that would be a terrible thing to have to experience from either side of this. Like, this is fucking rough, and it feels very real, and I bet this does happen. Whereas, like, again, it's like this thing of, like Ubisoft is there, they want it, they go like the 80%, and they just never close or even try to come back. Like, they pull you in at 80%, and then they dial it back to about 40, and then that's where they stay. It's like,
it just feels a little too romanticized for me. Just a little bit.
You look at, and like, not every game needs to be gritty and like The Last of Us or whatever, but people gave that game a shit ton of criticism, but they had what they wanted to do in mind and they fucking did it. They went right for it.
That's the thing. That game is like, if you're invested in it, it's fucking heartbreaking at times. And like, some people just can't handle that. And I think that's where a lot of the criticism came from, is like, you know, the things that happen very early in that game, you can see them for yourself, but I just think people weren't ready for that big of something to be stripped from them. But at the same time, if you keep playing that game, they explore the relationship in far more depth than they explore it in the first game. And I think that is where The Last of Us 2 shines.
And both sides to that story. Not even just like one person. It's like everybody is getting represented, and you're understanding every side of this thing instead of just going, I like Joel. Joel's the best. Don't be mean to Joel. And it's like, no, dude, this guy has a life too, man. They're not just a fucking mercenary or whatever. And and again, like I said, not every game needs that. But it's like, if you're gonna start us where something that interesting, I mean, it's like, it's not like the first time it's happened, but Ubisoft game is another one where it's like, hey man, guess what? These people killed both of your fucking parents, dog, and they died right in front of you. And then you got, almost ate by a wolf or whatever. And it's like, man, that's fucking a terrible upbringing. And it's like, hey, you want to goof off in the woods and you want to go collect this thing? And it's like, okay, man. It's like, don't hurt priests. And it's like, all right. Did this group of people wipe out people that are related to me? But like, at a time where my conscience is like, fucking, I'm a savage and I'm going to tear people apart. And you're just like, I don't know. They're also oddly well spoken, I think, too. Not to say that Vikings were dumb or anything. I obviously have no idea. But it seems like they're all very well put together for like being a savage clan that lives out in the wilderness. Yeah. But like, I don't know.
Besides all that, like, it's the game that's pulled me the most away from Sea of Thieves, and that's saying something. But like, I think I'll probably at least try to see it through to the end, at least until Cyberpunk comes out. Like, I'll get as far as I can into it. But actually, the moment to moment combat, that's where I find it the most fun. I can look over like the historical, like almost like that, like I said, that romanticization, but like, it doesn't make it any easier to swallow at times.
Yeah. I guess it's just that thing of like where I don't even necessarily need the historical accuracy so much as I need them to tell me a story that's a good story. And like, so many times have they done this same thing where it's like, again, they just rope you in and then don't deliver. And it's frustrating too, because again, you see everything there, you see all the parts and you go, God, something good's here. And it's just frustrating that they just never give it to you. Yeah. And I don't know why they don't. So yeah, but I can bitch about Ubisoft forever with their storytelling. It's some of the worst. Like, it's most, I won't say worst, it's the most disappointing overall.
Exactly.
Of maybe any company, but
and yeah, this is the last thing just I'll touch on real quick. I bought a Razer Kishi, which is a
I knew you was gonna do it, dog.
Dude, we talked about it, and I pulled the trigger on it. Actually, like, I bought it for other reasons, but I actually wanted to like stream games from my PC to my phone. And that works for the most part. My router is horrible. I think once I can upgrade my router, the like local network will get a lot better. But like, I tried some of the xCloud stuff both on Wi-Fi and on data, and seems to work pretty decently in some games. Other games are like a bit of a struggle. But the other thing to keep in mind is that like the hardware that xCloud is running on is original like Xbox One X hardware in their data center.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So they did announce that like early next year they're replacing all that server infrastructure with Xbox Series X hardware, which will, I think it'll increase the responsiveness and the fidelity of it. But at the same time, like, I think the tech's getting impressive. I haven't even gotten into the other thing that I tried this week, which was Stadia.
I think we know.
I'm gonna give
Yeah.
that another week before I talk some shit about it. But honestly,
Oh,
like
yeah?
my complaints
You know what?
about them
Uh,
aren't necessarily like how they perform, because they actually perform surprisingly well. Like I said, it's some games are better than others. Sea of Thieves isn't very good over the cloud, and it just very hard to like
I
kind
had
of
to
control.
imagine it's not because now you're adding like server latency into it as well, instead of just like overall latency between the game.
I mean, games like Hellblade works pretty decently. I tried this one. Ori worked pretty decently. Uh, Games that don't require a huge amount of like timing, like Hellblade does to some extent, but it's one of the more forgiving combat
Oh,
systems.
Ori does eventually too, though.
Yeah.
Ori becomes a really tight platformer at a point. Both of them do. They're great games though, if you haven't played through them. But yeah, they get pretty raw at a point.
And I mean, you can kind of see here, like in a first-person shooter, you can see him move the stick and like the slight delay there. There's also this weird frame buffering effect that happens, and you'll see it occasionally here.
I saw it just go across the screen, right, where it did like a roll.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Like where it misses some frames but tries to draw it out anyway.
Right.
And it's like a way of compensating, but like when your connection is fairly decent, it's pretty doable in some games. I just want to keep saying that because like, yeah, you're not going to get much mileage out of a first-person shooter or something very twitchy or something very active like a fighting game, but
Could you, just out of curiosity, I mean, I assume it would work, but like could you just like plug in a USB-C to Ethernet cable? And I mean, obviously defeats the whole purpose of the Wi-Fi part of this.
So you can't because at least with a controller solution like this, maybe with a regular Android phone and you like have it on the TV or something, maybe.
Oh, does it not? Wait, it doesn't send data though?
The port on here is only for charging on this controller.
Ah, what a missed opportunity.
But
Just in general, not even for that specific use, but that is kind of crazy.
for sure. I don't know, man.
Okay, so I guess last question quickly though. So if it's plugged into the phone, it's not sending. It's only getting battery off of that. Like it's Bluetooth to the phone.
No, it's like a direct connection to the phone. Like there's no Bluetooth or anything. It's like reading the input straight.
See, that's even weirder to me. I get. Well, yeah, maybe not. I get. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just for pass-through charging because I think like Bluetooth, it would have added a little bit more latency on top of it. The other thing that kind of sucks is like I have a Note 10 Plus, which is a very good phone. By the way, this isn't it. Oh, never mind. But I have a Note 10 Plus and like the antenna's set on it weird. So like the Wi-Fi signal is like toward the top of the phone. So when you're like holding the thing, you kind of drop some of the signal. So your mileage may vary with some phones. If I'm close to my router with it, it works pretty decently. But like, I have terrible cell reception where I live, but up at my office where I work, I have decent reception. So I want to try it where I have some good data.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like, because again, it's one of those things where it sort of defeats the purpose a little bit if you can't get away from. Yeah.
But the other good news is that it supports like Android games. So I have like Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars and San Andreas, a couple other like platformer. I have like the Oddworld Stranger's Wrath on Android, like some quality like console games like Android ported. And they're pretty damn good. Like it works well. I've also used RetroArch with it. Some other like emulators like a Dreamcast emulator. I'm like real into this device. It's pretty cool. I use my phone a lot, and like being able to play some console quality games is cool. One big thing before I stop talking about this is it's kind of weird what Xbox picks and chooses for you to be able to stream to mobile. Because I have the Xbox Companion app on my PC, and the only game that I really played on the Xbox One I have is the Rare Replay, so Banjo-Kazooie, Perfect Dark, all those games.
Right.
You can stream that to the desktop, but for whatever reason, with the Xbox app on the phone, you can't stream those titles. And I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's like a limitation of the console I have or something, but...
I I don't know. That doesn't. Yeah, I figured it would be like universal if you're streaming it anyway. Although, is the console companion streaming it from the console, or is it using the xCloud thing as well?
It's streaming it from the console over the local
Oh, then
network.
it maybe. Yeah, maybe it's just one that hasn't been updated to utilize xCloud yet. Because if you can't, I guess if you couldn't stream it from xCloud
Oh, well,
at all.
no. What I'm saying is there is the option to stream from your console to the phone. So on the Xbox app, you can hit the console and say like stream this game.
Right.
But like some of them work on the computer and some of them don't work on the mobile. So I don't know what compatibility issue is there. Because I would love to just pull out the Kishi controller while I'm laying in bed and play some Banjo-Kazooie or something.
Sure. Yeah, that is really strange. I wonder what that...
Yeah,
I wonder. I don't know. Maybe it just hasn't made it through certification yet or something. I don't know.
Possibly. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit about some Stadia next week. Because I got that unit 2 days ago, and I wasn't feeling too hot when I got it. Or I actually picked it... I actually got it yesterday.
That's what I was going to say is you can... they're offering deals now that if you buy Cyberpunk on Stadia, they give you a Chromecast Ultimate and a Stadia controller. So
yeah, I'll actually... Hold on real quick. Talk while I do something.
I can't. I don't know how to speak. Hey guys out there. What are you up to? What games are you playing this week? Have you played any video games? If you have, which video games did you play? Were they good? Leave it in the comments below.
Hello. Did you like my
Hey, welcome
pajamas?
back.
Yeah, I got that premiere edition that they were giving away to like YouTube Premium people, so that paid off. 10 years of being subscribed to Google Play Music. Rest in peace.
Finally gave you something worth it.
Yeah, it just kind of all came in this package, just like, controller sitting in here. Like, honestly, the package presentation of this thing was like pretty decent. But that's kind of all you get right there. And then inside of here was the Chromecast, which is plugged into the TV.
Which is the real money right there, not so much anything else.
Honestly, man, like I saw that and I was like, oh, it's a Chromecast. I've wanted one of those. And so I just got
they're
that.
like $50. It's not like, I mean, it's, that's something.
I do think it's just kind of funny that they're really throwing these things out there, but
well, because nobody is getting them. They got to do something, but I can't imagine. Like, again, it's that thing of like, it's just the whole prospect of buying the game on there.
Yeah.
Like, that just doesn't make sense.
Well, the Pro membership is also really weird. Because like some of the games on there I can just play otherwise elsewhere. The thing that I think Luna is going to get them on, I want to talk about all this next week, but the thing I think Luna is going to get them on is the channels, because I'll talk more about this thing next week, but that is the biggest hang up I have. It's just acquiring and playing games. It's just a nightmare.
Hey, but there's always Destiny 2 without expansions.
That's what I'm going to try tomorrow. Because it's finally free for everybody on Stadia. You don't have to have like a pro account to play the Destiny, like free to play. It's like you don't have to do that now to play it. So I'm gonna see what Destiny 2 is like tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great news.
I got it for free. I got to try it out.
No. I would be doing the exact same thing. I've got nothing against it. I just, well, it's sort of like the video game equivalent of watching Adam Sandler movies nowadays, right? So I sort of get it. I totally understand.
Dude, no, I could be playing an Ouya. I really could be. This is like step up from that.
You're playing an Ouya with even less compatibility, because you can't just sideload or play Android games. You have to play whatever that you buy from them.
There's been some interesting homebrew stuff coming around for Stadia, so I've been reading a little bit into that stuff. So we'll see. We'll see.
Anything to make that thing worth something other than the Chromecast, because I mean that's
Yeah.
We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, for sure. We'll just get
hell
into
yeah,
some
dude, Banjo-Tooie right there.
Games real quick. The Nintendo DS came out this day, November 20th, 2004.
16, boy.
Dude, crazy. Absolutely insane. I remember getting this game with the DS on Christmas. That was a good year. That was a very good year for me as a child.
It took me a while to get one. I remember, I think I got one with Metroid Hunters at some point, like not long after, but it took me a while. I didn't have the gray one for very long, and then I ended up getting...
Actually,
no, I don't think I really played too much DS. I think it was like when the DS Lite is when I really jumped in, but I did have like a gray one for a little bit.
Collection much. But yeah, I picked up, because I'm collecting handhelds, I actually picked up an original DS.
Oh, nice. How much did you
fork
over for that guy?
It's like $70.
That's not that bad.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do a shell replacement on it because the back is a little scratched. But, dude, holding this thing again as an adult, like, fuck, man. They should have put this thing through another, like, revision before they put it out to market. Because this thing is, like, really fucking weird to hold.
Is it? What, like, because it looks, to me, looking at it again, it's been a long time since I held one, but it looks really comfortable to me. Because it kind of just looks like an advance, but not as, or like a little bit heavier, I guess.
It's big, but it's got this like weird angular, like what people thought like video game consoles in the future would look like. Like a weird like Michael Bay movie prop.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just the design of it hasn't necessarily aged well, but honestly, like the games for the time, like I have Chrono Trigger in there right now for the DS. Looks pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
For what it is. But anyway,
that's a good pickup though. Yeah. Hey, wow, that's weird too. Because Banjo-Tooie we talked about a little bit when you were talking about Rare Replay, and then now we've got Mass Effect, which we just talked about. Which I can't believe the original Mass Effect is 13 years old either at this point. And look at that, Chrono Trigger for the DS in Japan. Would you look at that? It all comes together.
All these games that we're talking about.
Yeah, actually, Prinny, Can I Really Be the Hero? I talked about that, I think, last week, because they just put those on the Switch, which are pretty good.
Sonic Unleashed, what a video game.
Yeah. Last Remnant is...
Let me just say real quick. That game is perfectly fine without the werehog shit. If that stuff was not in that game, nobody would have said anything negative about it. Honestly.
Yeah. I'm sure it's the same with Sonic and the Nine Rings or whatever it was. I'm sure that one was totally great too, if it just didn't have medieval ring stuff in it.
Those are like notoriously bad.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed 3, if you want to talk about a bad Assassin's Creed game, that's the worst one right there.
Do people consider that the worst one?
Yeah, for sure. It's because the first 2 hours you're like a child, and that doesn't really tell a great story. And then it's super slow, and it's kind of awkward. And again, you're talking about the American Revolution and stuff, but not really getting there. And you're talking about a Native American trying to, come to make his way through the United States in that time period. Also, not saying anything. It's the same shit every time. It's just I'm telling you, it's the same thing with every fucking Ubisoft game ever. It's always this. Hey, PlayStation All-Stars? That was okay.
Dude,
Wasn't
the Smash
great,
Brothers
okay.
killer? The Smash Brothers killer.
It was okay.
Franchise.
I mean, it could have been much better, but it was fine.
I remember that game being decent, but
yeah, it was fine. It's just the thing about it was they were PlayStation All-Stars, but you didn't have Crash Bandicoot, you didn't have Spyro the Dragon, you didn't have Cloud, you didn't have any PlayStation All-Star character. You had all these weird characters that hadn't been sold to Activision yet. Yeah. So it was and then you had Big Daddy from BioShock. Is that a PlayStation classic? Fucking no.
So it's Sony didn't want to go out of their way to make the deals that Nintendo was making for their guest characters.
No. Let me look it up real quick. I'll see if I can't, because it was a really okay. You have
I'll
Big
pull
Daddy.
up the roster too. I'll pull it up.
Yeah, Big Daddy, Cole McGrath from Infamous, you could kind of give that one. Colonial Redrick from Killzone, but does anybody remember or care about that guy? Emmett Graves from Starhawk, but who gives a shit? Fat Princess, I guess. Like Heihachi from Tekken, that's great. Isaac Clarke, I don't really call that like a PlayStation All-Star guy from Dead Space. Jack and Daxter, I'll give you that one. Cat and Dusty from Gravity Rush, I'll give you that one. And Kratos, I'll give you that one. Nathan Drake and Parappa, those two are good. Ratchet and Clank, Sackboy, those are good. Sir Daniel from Medieval, that's fair. Sly Cooper, also fair. Spike, Sweet Tooth, but not Sweet Tooth as a car, Sweet Tooth as a clown. And then Zeus from God of War, I guess. But again, these are all stars. And yeah, like, I don't know. It just the Big Daddy didn't really make sense. It wasn't even so much that there was like these other characters. It's just there was a severe lack of like, like Tony Hawk would have been fine, or a character from SSX or something. Like again, Spyro and Crash specifically, huge misses. Cloud, another huge miss. It was weird. It was just weird. Cause like again, a Starhawk character, who gives a shit? Like what a character. Some dude from Killzone, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Infamous, I totally get. But that's the other thing too, is like PlayStation's characters outside of like their like 5 cute ones like Ratchet, Sackboy, Jack, Spyro, and Crash are all just buff dudes. So that's not really fun either. You're just playing as like 19 different buff guys.
Yeah.
So who cares? Yeah, it was weird. Like the game was not that bad. But it was also the knockout thing didn't really matter or something. There was some other weird mechanic to it to where you had like what was it? It was like
you had to hit them with finishing moves.
That's what it was. Yeah, you could knock them, but it didn't matter. You had to actually like kill them with this like special move.
Yes.
That's right. Remember. Yeah, that did suck.
Because they couldn't just copy the Smash Brothers thing. They couldn't.
They could have
possibly do that.
Yeah.
And Beat Saber. That's the lone game on PSVR that I played the most.
We just talked about that today too. That's really weird. And then Warframe, something our Discord can't escape.
Well, I'm gonna start a fund for those boys and get them off.
Dude, it's a fate worse than death for our Discord. It's just having them fucking play Warframe. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it is crazy.
Well, those are games, dude. Those are fucking video games.
Well, Persona 4 are really good, and then Hitman Absolution was pretty alright, but it wasn't the best one. But yeah, that's video games. If you played them, you played them this week. If you played video games, you were aware that you did that. Or maybe not aware, which is concerning, but
you can play video games anywhere, dude. You can play them on the train.
You really can.
Play them on the toilet. Play them at funeral.
Hell, if you're nuts, you can even play them on Stadia.
Yeah, you could do that. You could get one for totally free and try it out.
Well, you can get them for the low price of having to play Cyberpunk on on Stadia.
I'll say
which I would have to argue again, not the premier way to experience that game. I have to guess.
Probably not. I'll say though, if that game was available for straight up free streaming, like through a service on Stadia, sure, I'd try it. Why not? It probably wouldn't be my way to play it, but
Christian, you're being very considerate.
I would try it.
You know that would not.
It.
Yes, of course you would try it. All of us would try it. But to say it probably wouldn't be your preferred way, don't lie to us.
I mean, it
wouldn't be.
1,000% it wouldn't. 1,000. Not
when
exactly.
Not when I have
you're
being very generous.
You're
being very generous.
Hey, if they want to send me some codes to further review Stadia, hey, I gotta stay on some good graces.
Shit, they ain't gonna send us a goddamn thing.
I know they're not.
They're handing them out for free and they ain't gonna send us to. Probably because we badmouth Stadia on every single episode we've had so far. Pretty much.
I've always been the benefit of the doubt. I've always been, because I like the tech, and I think if the tech gets there, it'll be really cool. But they've fucked up the platform.
I agree. It's the same thing with like Oculus shit. It's like I think it's good hardware and tech, but their platform they're trying to put it all on is not a great foundation.
Yes.
Stadia's more so, especially because the storefront Oculus is fine, but it's the Facebook thing and then the walled garden or whatever. Stadia's is just like stupid.
Yes.
It's just stupid.
Yes. We'll talk all about that because I'll have a better idea for you.
Fair enough. Yeah, I haven't got to experience it, but from all I know about it, it's fucking dumb.
But yeah, next week we'll talk. We might stream this thing live next time. Also, we're gonna maybe get into
we're thinking about that.
What our end of year plans are. The episode will probably come out a little earlier, considering Thanksgiving is next week. So,
oh right, it is.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. Yeah, well, my family all lives 1,000 miles away, so I forget about holidays most of the time. I know I have to call people that day. Yeah, okay. So then, let's see. Yeah, so streamed episode next week. I have a few reviews. I think I'll be sending up of VR stuff relatively soon. We should do some VR stuff this week.
Absolutely,
because I can record it now, so that would be fun to do. Maybe some Rec Room, or we could both suck at Beat Saber in tandem. That could be all right.
Yeah, or some Ghost games, so y'all can hear me puss out of going. So.
Oh yeah, well maybe I can play that game now effectively, because last time I did it, I crouched and then got stuck in a wall and could not move or drop items or do anything, and that was not a fun experience for that game. So yeah, I could give some more ghost finding. But yeah. Well, guys, if you're looking for me, you found it. If you're looking for Christian, you can find him at the Deadly Robot pretty much everywhere.
Right.
And we'll see you guys next Friday with a new episode of this. Happy birthday. Oh shit, that's my episode.